Chapter 331. Lord Ling Xiao. In front of the Lingbao Pavilion, Su Wenye looked at the two of them who were about to kiss. A bitter look appeared on his face. Unknowingly, his daughter was no longer the little girl who always followed him around and asked for sweet. Perhaps it was time to give her some freedom. If Ling Xiao could really stay by her side for the rest of her life, he would be a good son-in-law. After all, his background now made Su Wenye feel terrified. A 16 or 17-year-old boy could get a sect master to bow to him. If this news were to spread, the entire Shringzhou would probably be in an uproar. In just one day, Su Wenye's thoughts had changed. He loved Su Yan very much, but he also hoped that the latter's man would be someone useful to the Cloud Alliance. In Su Wenye's view, this was not contradictory. The stronger the young man, the deeper the background, the more stable and happy he could give Su Yan. Alliance Master Su. Even though Ling Xiao had never met the richest man in the Shringzhou, he had already guessed his identity. Moreover, although Su Wenye's face was chubby, there were some similarities between him and Su Yan. He immediately bowed, and there was no arrogance in him at all. Haha, I didn't expect Lord Ling Xiao and Sect Master Taishan to have such a deep relationship. Su Wenye's eyes flashed. Obviously, he wanted to find out the relationship between the two. Alliance Master, you misunderstand. I have no relationship with Sect Master Taishan. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. However, Su Wenye's face instantly revealed a look of surprise. No relationship? No relationship? He, the #1 God Emperor of the Eastern Border, bowed to you humbly? I, the leader of the Cloud Alliance, am not worthy of his bow. Suddenly, Su Wenye felt that Ling Xiao was humiliating him. Haha, it's fine if you don't want to talk about it. There's nothing I can't talk about. I once discussed the Tao with Sect Master Taishan, and we got along quite well. Sect Master Taishan also introduced me to Sect Master Taishan, and we discussed the Tao together. If we have any relationship, it's probably because we are dedicated to the Tao. There's no seniority in learning. Perhaps I have some insights that the Taoist master respects, and that's why he's treating me favorably. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His appearance was a little subservient, as if he was overwhelmed by the favor. F***ck. The Lord of Taishan was the one who killed the oracle of the sacred cult. Ling Xiao wanted to get rid of the sacred cult, but he couldn't tell the world now. Yes, they were on the same side. Careful. Reason. Su Wenye was taken aback, but he didn't quite believe it. You're just a 17-year-old kid who hasn't even stepped into the martial emperor realm. How dare you imitate a Tao master's preaching? If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Why are you making up such a reason? If it wasn't for Su Yan sticking to Ling Xiao's side, he would have already taken action to teach this ignorant brat a lesson. Calm down, calm down. Probably because he had seen too many unbelievable things today, Su Wenye felt that his state of mind was somewhat unstable at this moment. Alliance Master, there's something you don't know. Behind Su Wenye, the Lord of Lingbao Division suddenly took a step forward and whispered a few words in his ear. At first, the Lord of Cloud Alliance was still calm, but later, he gradually revealed surprise and shock. Finally, he turned his head with fear and looked at the young man in front of him. The Tao of man is about love and trust. It can be passed on but not accepted. It can be obtained but not seen. Since the beginning of time, it has existed for a long time. Gods, ghosts, and emperors are born in heaven and earth. Before the Tai Chi, it is not considered high. Below the 6 extremes, it is not considered deep. Born in heaven and earth, it is not considered long. Born in ancient times, it is not considered old. The Tao gives birth to 1. 1 gives birth to 2. 2 gives birth to 3. 3 gives birth to all things. All things embrace yin and yang. Listen. Is this something a human would say? No. Is this something a 17 or 18-year-old boy would say? This is not reason. This is simply the truth of the great Tao. In an instant, there was a slight fluctuation in Su Wenye's realm. When the Taoists discussed the Tao, a group of people in the Paong realm listened to Ling Zhao's words and had some understanding. Su Wenye was an emperor god. Naturally, his understanding was deeper. However, did these words really come from Ling Zhao? But if it wasn't him, then why had he never heard of such a profound principle despite his knowledge? No wonder the Taoist master of Taixien bowed to a young man. Everyone knew that the Taoist master of Taixien lived in seclusion to study the great Tao, and Ling Zhao's words were indeed worthy of respect. There was a sequence of people who heard the Tao, but there was no sequence of people who understood the Tao. Some people were born with the Tao and were blessed by heaven and earth. How could ordinary people compare to their understanding of the great Tao? Vaguely, Su Wenye seemed to see a destined person standing in front of him. Around him, the Tao manifested. Celestial shadows flickered. It was awe-inspiring. Treasures. This was really a treasured young man. If Su Yen could really marry him, perhaps it would be a blessing? Haha, little friend Ling Zhao, why don't we have a chat in the pavilion? At this moment, Su Wenye's attitude had obviously changed greatly. What a joke. Even the Taoist master of Taixien bowed. How could he, a mere third-grade emperor god, pretend? The Yunlai business alliance was terrifying, but it referred to wealth. At the end of the day, Su Wenye's nature was that of a businessman. And the nature of a businessman was to make profit. Previously, he had objected to Su Yen dating Ling Zhao because he felt that Ling Zhao was useless. Or rather, not very useful. But now, whether it was the Taoist master of Taixien or the young man's background and talent, it was enough for Su Wenye to pay attention to. I'll listen to you, alliance leader. Ling Zhao's expression was still indifferent. He even seemed unfathomable. And Su Wenye immediately nodded. Not bad. Although Ling Zhao was very respectful to him, he was not humble. He was not like the other Xingzhou heavenly prides who wanted to call him father. Ling Zhao was indeed different. He was indifferent to fame and fortune. No wonder Su Yen was so obsessed. Daughter, I've wronged you. Little friend, please. Su Wenye nodded and smiled. He turned around and walked into the spirit pavilion. Behind him, Ling Zhao held Su Yan's hand and followed closely. However, the latter's face was more or less filled with doubt. Father, what's wrong? Why does he look at Ling Zhao more warmly than me? Only when the three of them entered the spirit pavilion did Sun Su and Su Yen look at each other with a solemn expression. Brother Sun, did you feel it? Ninth stage divine emperor and even that palm. Could it be that sect Master Taixien is really the reincarnation of an immortal? Sun Su sighed helplessly. The resentment in his heart had dissipated. If they did not die today, that sect master had already given face to the Cloud Alliance. Otherwise, with just the two of them, that palm was enough to reincarnate. On the second floor of the spirit pavilion, Su Wenye and Ling Zhao sat opposite each other. There was a cup of tea on the table. Little friend, do you know how to play chess? Why don't you play a game with me? After Su Wenye said that, the Spirit Treasures Pavilion Master immediately brought over a game of chess and placed it on the table. Oh, Yen'er, didn't you say that you still have something to do? Right, I want to take out the spiritual fire from the cauldron. Su Yen was stunned. Then, he thought of something. Aunt Yun, help me find a cauldron. Okay. After the two of them left, Su Wenye smiled and looked at Ling Zhao. Little friend, please. Okay. Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed. However, he could not help but sneer in his heart. Play chess? What an old-fashioned trick. Whenever a chess game appeared in a novel, it was mostly to observe one's character. It was obvious that Su Wenye was testing him. Chapter 332. I heard that the Ling people that you're from now have the potential to conquer the eastern border? Su Wenye picked up a black chess piece and placed it gently on the chessboard. Ling Xiao only shook his head slightly and placed his next piece without any hesitation or apprehension. Su Wenye's expression froze as he looked at Ling Xiao with a meaningful gaze. Decisive but not scheming enough. But it made sense. He was only 17 or 18 years old. How could he be as scheming as Su Wenye? Is that not the case? I heard that the ancient Qin clan has already submitted to Alliance Master. How much of what people say is true and how much is false? If someone takes the opportunity to fan the flames, the tempo will be set. I don't believe that you don't know the truth. Or rather, you will change your mind because of my words. So, why bother asking? Ling Xiao smiled faintly and placed a chess piece without hesitation. He was not proficient in chess, but the system was proficient in it. At this moment, he only spent 100 villain points to exchange for a go ceremony. For such an ordinary item, Ling Xiao felt that the system was raising the price. Of course, with his current divine sense, he could comprehend a ceremony in 2 or 3 seconds. So, he could roughly see that Su Wenye was setting him up. But if Ling Xiao broke the game, he would inevitably be worried. If he was more cautious, he would break half the game and turn it around. In this way, the Cloud Alliance Master's impression of him would be perfect. Decisive, tenacious, thoughtful, but not to the extent that people would fear. Most importantly, he had to make the Cloud Alliance Master feel that he could control the situation. Otherwise, why would he be willing to hand over his daughter and the Cloud Alliance to him? Ha! For Ling Xiao, such a test was not much of a challenge. After all, he had seen enough and had already summed up his experience. At this moment, he even had a good grasp of the expression on his face. Sometimes he frowned, sometimes he was calm. He looked confident but not conceited. He looked young and not impetuous. Actually, it was about scheming and scheming. How should he put it? Back then, the saints were not allowed to interfere in the battle between Taoists and Buddhists. Did you think that those zenith heavens were the ones playing chess? What kind of joke was this? All living beings were chess pieces in the saints' plan. You're not scheming, you don't know how to scheme. Are you just playing with yourself? But since ancient times, who said that the saints were sinister? Those who went around killing people and setting fires were indeed villains. They were just short of having the word villain written on their faces. If the righteous path didn't kill them, would they leave them to wreak havoc on the world? Ling people? Our saint cult is so scared. F***ck. Therefore, the process was really not important. Ling Xiao's words were just asking for his opinion. There was no disrespect to the sacred sect. Therefore, no matter how he answered, he wouldn't suspect Ling Xiao of anything. However, a human's desire wasn't to be subservient to others. Especially now, when Su Wenye mentioned the business alliance's losses, wasn't he worried about the fate of the Su family? If I don't give him some shrimps, how can he be a pig? If he isn't a pig, how can he be killed by the sacred sect? If he doesn't die, when will the power of the Cloud Alliance fall into my hands? Haha, the smartest hunter would always pretend to be the prey. However, who would be the hunter in the end, as expected? Su Wenye didn't put down his chess piece. For the first time, he hesitated. He just looked at Ling Xiao with a complicated expression. Alliance leader? When Ling Xiao looked at him with some confusion, Su Wenye smiled and nodded. Little friend, you're right. But I'm a businessman, so I don't just want stability. There was no harm in saying that. Although it was a metaphor, there were no flaws. Little friend, you've lost. In the end, the chess piece was placed and the game was decided. Su Wenye smiled and nodded. It's been a long time since someone could play a good game with me. In the past, the people who played chess with me either feared me and deliberately lost, or had complicated thoughts and hesitated. Only little friend, you're decisive and serious. I think highly of you. Alliance leader's chess skills are superb. Ling Xiao is ashamed of his inferiority. Ling Xiao smiled humbly. At this moment, footsteps suddenly came from the corridor. Su Yen held the green devil ancient cauldron and walked in. When she saw the smiles on their faces, a trace of surprise flashed across her beautiful eyes. Father, young master, what are you talking about? You seem to be very happy. Su Yen returned the green devil to Ling Xiao. Young master, I've found another magical weapon to seal the spiritual fire. This cauldron, you can return it to Auntie. Okay. Yen, I heard that chrysanthemums have bloomed at the foot of Enlightenment Mountain. Let's go and take a look. Ling Xiao put away the cauldron with a gentle expression. Su Yen glanced at Su Wenye and the latter sighed helplessly. I won't interfere in the affairs of you youngsters in the future. Do whatever you want to do. Father will support you. Thank you, Father. Su Yan's delicate body trembled and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. She directly pulled Ling Xiao's hand and ran out of the pavilion. Young master, what did you say to father? Why did he suddenly change his mind? No, Uncle Su is a very caring person. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently, but a trace of coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. This Su Wenye was indeed an old fox. A person who only cared about profit was naturally dangerous. But wasn't he also a chess piece that could be easily controlled? Humans, with desires, there would be flaws. I, Ling Xiao, the light of the righteous path, how could I harm my father-in-law? Then wouldn't I be a beast? If Su Wenye died one day, then he must have died of greed. Chapter 333. In the Spiritual Treasure Pavilion, Su Wenye stood by the window and looked at the two people walking away on the street. His face had returned to its usual coldness. Furthermore, the eyes of the richest man in the Xingzhou continent were filled with an indescribable depth. To be honest, he could not see through Ling Xiao. He felt that this young man was much more terrifying than what he had seen. It was an indescribable feeling, but Su Wenye believed that he had a unique eye for people. This young man was not ordinary. Alliance Master, what do you think? Outside the pavilion, the fifth-grade Divine Emperor, Elder Xian, walked over slowly. He and Sun Su had followed Su Wenye for the longest time and could be considered as his trusted subordinates. Elder Xian, what do you think? Su Wenye turned his head and looked at the elder with a calm expression. This kid is both good and evil. His methods are extraordinary. I heard that the major events that happened in the eastern border recently were more or less related to him. Elder Xian sighed. Such a monster was indeed ambitious and ruthless, but he was not a good match for Mississippi. After all, how many people would care about love when they were plotting against the world? Is that so? I feel that this man is not bad. Perhaps the fate of the Cloud Alliance will change because of him. Su Wenye's words were strange, but Elder Xian's eyes suddenly focused. Alliance Master, you mean, for hundreds of years, the Cloud Alliance has been cautious and conscientious. Now that we have the wealth of the world in our hands, why should we be controlled by others? Ling Xiao said something that I agree with. If the Cloud Alliance wants to be strong, it must go through troubled times. Su Wenye smiled faintly, but a trace of coldness flashed across his face. Pass down the order. In the future, if Ling people and Ling Xiao need anything, the Cloud Alliance will fully support them. However, it can only be done in secret. Yes, Alliance Master. On the Enlightenment Mountain, a beautiful figure in green walked over slowly. She was as cold as the wind in the mountains. Who dares to barge into the Taishan Dao sect? A Dao sect elder descended from the sky and blocked the young girl's path. Elder, I am here to look for someone. Although Yi Qingchan's aura was cold, there was a peaceful smile on her face. This was somewhat strange. Looking for someone? Miss, are you looking for my Daozi? The elder's originally gloomy face gradually relaxed after seeing the pure and sincere smile on Yi Qingchan's face. No. I'm here to see Ling Xiao. Yi Qingchan shook her head slightly as a trace of longing flashed across her beautiful eyes. Young master, Qingchan is here. Did you miss me? Young master Ling Xiao? I wonder if Miss. Upon hearing the two words Ling Shao, the gloominess on the Tao sect elder's face disappeared and turned into a faint reverence. The sect lord had already made it clear that all the people and forces related to Lord Ling Shao would be the most honorable guests of the Taishan sect. Although many elders didn't know the reason, it didn't stop them from being obedient. I am young master's maidservant. I heard that young master entered the secret realm. I wonder if he has come out yet? Yi Qingchan hesitated for a moment but didn't dare to say the word maidservant in the end. Although this was a dream in her heart, young master had a fiancée after all. If she said the wrong thing, wouldn't it be bad for young master's reputation? Maidservant? Young master, she. Buzz! Suddenly, a buzzing sound came from heaven and earth as a figure descended from the sky. It was Liang Yi the Daozi. Today, he had already changed into his usual white clothes. His eyes were dim, but he gave people a feeling of immortality. Who are you? He didn't hear Ling Shao mention such a maidservant and casually asked about the sect lord's whereabouts. And who are you? Yi Qingchan's eyes were cold as if there was an icy light flickering in them. The entire Enlightenment Mountain suddenly turned cold for a moment. In the hall far away, the Daozi of the Taishan sect suddenly opened his eyes with a look of surprise on his face. His figure instantly disappeared from the spot. I am the Daozi of the Taishan sect. Miss, are you young master's maidservant? Outside Liang Yi's body, there seemed to be a celestial shadow rising and easily dispelling the biting cold. However, at this time, his expression was also somewhat solemn. It was not because of Yi Qingchan's cultivation, but because of the bone-deep chill, extreme cold Tao law. You know young master? Since he called Ling Shao young master, it was obvious that the Daozi of the Taishan sect knew him. The coldness in Yi Qingchan's eyes dissipated, and a bright smile appeared on her pretty face again. I'm young master's friend. Then, was I too fierce just now? Of course I know young master. Who are you? Since you are young master's maidservant, how can you not know young master's whereabouts? Liang Yi's expression was cold. He didn't let down his guard because of Yi Qingchan's beauty at all. In fact, if this girl couldn't give him a convincing reason, he would not hesitate to kill her on Enlightenment Mountain. I have been cultivating in the Heavenly Sword Immortal sect. Now that I have finally left the mountain, I heard that young master entered the secret zone. Daozi, has young master come out? Yi Qingchan's eyes were a little disappointed, but the Daozi of the Taishan sect looked surprised. You are Yi Qingchan? Everyone in the Xingzhou knew about Ling Zhao's engagement that day. And the name Yi Qingchan was even more impressive than Yan Qingyun. There was no other reason other than the fact that Ling Shao had given her an engagement gift in front of everyone. For a time, the three words, Yi Qingchan, instantly resounded throughout the eastern border. With Liang Yi's cautiousness, he had naturally sent people to investigate Ling Zhao's actions in recent years. He just didn't expect that Yi Qingchan's background would be so different. It's me. Daozi, did young master mention me? Yi Qingchan's face was full of expectation, but Liang Yi just smiled bitterly. Young master went down the mountain today. Now, suddenly, Liang Yi was a little hesitant. At this moment, the Lord and Su Yan, if he told Yi Qingchan the whereabouts of the Lord and disturbed the Lord, would the latter be afraid of him? Went down the mountain? The mystic realm is over? Didn't they say it would take a month? Where did young master go? Yi Qingchan exclaimed. She originally wanted to wait at the entrance of the mystic realm and give him a surprise when he returned. She didn't expect that he would go down the mountain. Suddenly, Yi Qingchan was a little disappointed. In fact, he even felt that it was destined by the heavens. Young master, are you and I really not fated? I'm afraid he has already returned to the Ling people? Oh, did he go back with Nian Qingyun? Yi Qingchan sighed softly, but Liang Yi suddenly looked at her with a complicated expression. Nian Qingyun is dead. Boom! Suddenly, There was snow and ice on Enlightenment Mountain. In a breath, the ancient trees froze and the flowers withered. Even the mountain wind stopped for no reason. Nian Qingyun is dead? Yi Qingchan's beautiful eyes overflowed with sadness, shock, and bitterness. In short, it was very complicated. She had seen Nian Qingyun. She had seen her beauty and coldness. She even admitted that the goddess of the Holy Ji Palace was indeed a good match for young master. But whether Nian Qingyun was dead or not had nothing to do with her. At most, she was a little confused and a little emotional. She was just very worried that young master must be very sad now. Even if Ling Xiao said that the two of them were just a marriage of sections. But with Yi Qingchan's understanding of young master, if he didn't want to do something, who in this world could force him to do it? Suddenly, Yi Qingchan turned around and rushed down the mountain. She wanted to find young master, stay by his side, and tell him that she was still here. Young master, the fog is everywhere. Qingchan loves you in a place where no one else is. It wasn't until Yi Qingchan's figure was far away that the figure of sect master Taixian appeared beside Liang Yi. He looked at the beautiful figure coldly. Long Jiang, that aura, another reincarnator. No wonder it's the era of great battles. But, did Long Jiang feel it too? Why is this aura a little familiar? Chapter 334. On a hillside in the north of Dao Comprehension Mountain, Ling Xiao held Su Yan's hand and looked at the chrysanthemums that covered the entire mountain. His expression was calm. Today's game of chess between him and Su Wenye had given the leader of Yunlai Alliance enough shock and confusion. At this moment, the richest man in Xingzhou was most likely still hesitating about how to make the Su family stand at the top of the world. After all, the so-called foundation of such a rich family was spirit stones and spirit treasures. The experts in the sect were also driven by benefit. If there was a day when someone wanted to make them disappear, it would only take a moment. I plan to leave Dao Comprehension City today. Qingyun died in Xia Chen's hands, and I must make Yuan Yu sacred ground pay the price. Otherwise, the hatred in my heart will not be appeased. Ling Xiao coldly snorted, and his eyes overflowed with killing intent. At this moment, his anger was not fake. The daughter of destiny with 10,000 providence died in front of him. For Ling Xiao, this was a great loss. However, for this loss, Ling Xiao inexplicably had an impulse to disregard everything. Oh, then young master, go ahead. I will always support you. Su Yan raised her foot and crushed a dazzling golden chrysanthemum under her foot. What about young master after taking revenge? What are your plans? The young master of the ancient puppet sect bullied you, and the ancient puppet sect also has to pay a price. After dealing with these two sects, I plan to travel to the western border. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. Traveling was fake, and finding the child of destiny was his real goal. Currently, the child of destiny in the eastern border was either dead or subdued. For Ling Xiao, there was no need to stay there anymore. The western border dynasty stood in great numbers, and there were endless expeditions. Only in this kind of chaotic world would there be peerless monsters. Ancient puppet sect? Go to the western border? Young master. The western border is chaotic, Yen. Cultivators of my generation are wholeheartedly pursuing the Tao. The more we train, the faster we grow. In the eastern border, everyone who hears the name of Ling people will instinctively revere me. No one dares to truly compete with me. This is not what I want. Ling Zhao's voice sounded helpless and bitter. But when it reached Su Yan's ears, it inexplicably caused the young girl to feel some reverence. This was a real man. His ambition was to travel far, and he was fearless of hardships and dangers. He would never be greedy for comfort, and would only aim for a higher sky. Young master, Yen is willing to go with you. The gloominess on Su Yan's face dissipated. His eyes were bright and full of affection. As expected, young master loves me too. He's going to deal with the ancient puppet sect for me. But this kind of tyranny, you still have to give me an explanation for killing your successor. Young master, as expected of you. He was strong enough, protective enough, and manly enough. Hearing this, Ling Xiao shook his head slightly. I'll teach you the ancient technique first. It won't be too late for you to resolve the hidden illness of the cold body. But young master, I want to stay by your side. Sigh. Yen I'm going to the western border. This trip is dangerous. Moreover, in that kind of battlefield, it's not safe to have the protection of an expert. I've always been labeled as a hedonist in the eastern border. So this time, I plan to go to the western border and rely on my own strength without relying on anyone or anything from the Ling people to establish a dynasty and prove my name as Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's expression was impassioned, and he looked like he was going to do something big. But, Yen you know that in order to establish a orthodoxy, it must be very difficult in the beginning. How can I bear to let you suffer by my side? Wait until I have a firm foothold in the western border, then I'll send someone to bring you over. Prove your name as a dynasty. Su Yen covered her red lips with her jade-like hand. Her beautiful eyes were already filled with shock. Finally, she understood why her father's attitude towards Ling Xiao had changed so much. Her father was most optimistic about this kind of young and ambitious genius. Ambition was a person's motivation to work hard. If one craved for ease, no matter how talented they would eventually be reduced to the background of an era. Inexplicably, Su Yan's eyes glistened with tears. He's afraid that I'll suffer, so he wants to establish a dynasty and bring me over. Then wouldn't I become the mother of the world, the empress? I'm just a little shy. But I'm really touched. Young master, since you have such ambitions, Yen will naturally support you. I'll inform the Spirit Treasures pavilions and auction houses in the western border to support whatever you need. Also, Su Yen suddenly took out a qianquan bag and handed it to Ling Xiao. I don't have many spirit stones on me. There's about 100 million in here. Take it first. When I return to the Xingzhou Central region, I'll send someone to deliver it to you. Yen, what are you doing? I don't even want the Ling people's spirit stones. How can I take your spirit stones? Young master. Su Yen suddenly gazed at Ling Xiao with a serious expression. She slowly snuggled into his embrace. You and I don't need to talk about this. You've already given me the spiritual fire. What's a mere 100 million spirit stones? You're the witness, and I just don't want you to work so hard. Whether it's establishing a dynasty, roping in strong cultivators, or training an army, they all need spirit stones. Don't let Yenri wait too long, okay? But, if you don't agree, I'll go to the western border with you. Can you bear to do that? Su Yen raised his head and gazed at Ling Xiao affectionately. She would go, but only if she could solve the problem of her cold body. Otherwise, she would be a burden and delay young master's plan. You really infuriate me. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have said this to you. Ling Xiao awkwardly put the qianquan bag into his ring and glared at Su Yen. If others know about this, they'll inevitably say that I'm living off a woman. Young master, what are you saying? Whoever dares to say such nonsense, I'll tear his mouth apart. Moreover, this kind of family matters should be kept between us. Why tell others? Su Yen pouted and shook Ling Xiao's arm. I want a kiss. The latter smiled helplessly and lowered his head to kiss her gently. Young master, I want to cultivate. Yen if two people love each other for a long time, they wouldn't be together day and night. Ling Xiao spoke sternly, but Su Yan's expression turned sluggish. If two people love each other for a long time, they wouldn't be together day and night. What kind of godly sentence was this? But this was just a casual remark from young master. With just a casual sentence, he made Yen see countless days and nights, countless moons, and stars falling perhaps, This was what the legends meant by the mandate of heaven. Upright, righteous, infatuated, talented, handsome, terrifying cultivation, heaven-defying talent, and a powerful background. Suddenly, Su Yen felt that she didn't seem to be worthy of Lord Ling Xiao. Besides having a few smelly spirit stones, what else did she have? Even his life was saved by the young master. The saying, 3 lifetimes of good fortune, should be referring to someone like her, right? Young master. Yen is too narrow-minded. Su Yen bit her red lips and tears welled up in her eyes. She was very afraid that a peerless person like Ling Xiao would leave her one day. How could she keep his heart? Spirit stones? Vulgar. Why not give him the identity of the successor of the Yunlai Merchant Alliance? Yen I'm not outstanding enough now. I just want to work harder so that I can protect you and the Su family from all the storms. Ling Xiao smiled gently and Su Yen took out a golden ancient token and passed it to him. Young master, in the future, the Yunlai Merchant Alliance will listen to your orders. This token is equivalent to my personal command. You can use all the resources of the Merchant Alliance. Pfft! Young master, what are you laughing at? Su Yen was stunned. Yen I'm laughing. You're so naive. This, if Uncle Su knows. Ling Xiao coughed softly and his expression returned to his affectionate self. Little fool. Stop fooling around. I'll be touched if you do this. Young master. Father said that he will support any decision I make. Su Yen passed the token to Ling Xiao and the shock in her eyes turned into determination. She didn't regret it even if she died. But, if young master doesn't love Yen, you can throw this away. What nonsense are you talking about? How can I not love you? Thus, in a very difficult situation, Ling Xiao resolutely took the ancient medallion. Actually, he really didn't want to live off a woman. Smack smack. Chapter 335. Yen let's find a place to fuse with the spirit fire. Otherwise, I won't be at ease without you by my side. Ling Xiao stroked Su Yan's hair. She smiled sweetly. Okay. Young master, shall we return to Dao Enlightenment City? No. There are many spies in the city. I have a good place to go. Close your eyes and I'll take you there. Ling Xiao deliberately kept her in suspense. Su Yen obediently closed her eyes and looked expectant. Buzz. There was a buzzing sound and Su Yen felt dizzy. Before she could comprehend it, Ling Xiao's voice sounded in her ears. Okay, you can open your eyes now. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Su Yen opened her eyes with a trace of surprise on her face. At this moment, what appeared in front of her was an extremely desolate land. There was no life, no color. The entire land was bleak and desolate. Although there was a scorching sun above her head, the light wasn't warm at all. It even made her skin numb. At the end of the land there was a dark moon. At this moment, the two of them seemed to be standing on top of a mountain. On the flat ground below the mountain, dozens of figures were busy. They were cutting open the mountain and taking out stones. It seemed like they were building something. However, just as Su Yen was puzzled, she suddenly realized that those people who were shining with divine light like slaves were all god thearchs and god kings. And they looked familiar? These are some of the experts who followed me. This place will become the foundation of my orthodoxy and also our home. Ling Xiao smiled warmly. He held Su Yan's hand and walked towards the mountain top. At this moment, although the realm he was in was incomparably vast, there was no spiritual energy at all. However, it was said that there were many dragon veins in the western border. Haha. Ling Xiao had once carefully investigated the realm. There were a total of 9 mountain ranges that stretched across the entire realm. The place where Xing Shun and the others were building the palace was where the 9 dragon veins converged. It was also the center of this territory. As long as he found the 9 dragon veins and placed them in the mountain, this territory would become a holy land for cultivation. 8 seemed to be enough. After all, the Yuan-Yu Holy Land was rich in spiritual energy. Obviously, it contained a spirit vein. Yen-er, let's begin. I'll teach you the ancient technique first. Ling Zhao's eyes flickered with soul light. Su Yen felt his sea of consciousness tremble as an ancient golden text appeared in his mind. I've studied this ancient technique before. For 2 whole hours, the two of them patiently studied the burning scripture. And with Su Yan's talent, it didn't take him too much time. From the beginning to the end, she did not ask Ling Xiao where they were. After all, everyone had secret. Since he had brought him here, it meant that he had great trust in him. Yen-er, are you ready? Ling Zhao's expression was solemn. When he saw the nervousness in Su Yan's eyes, he couldn't help but sneer in his heart. Although the heaven and earth spirit fire was an extremely ominous item, no one had ever heard of it burning a child of destiny to death. Those who could be burned to death were only minor villains. In other words, with Su Yan's karmic luck that was even higher than Lin Shi's, how could he possibly die here so easily? Of course, as the one who should cooperate with your performance, I will do my best. Young master, so Lin Shi still died in your hands, right? But the God Emperor behind him. It's okay. You don't have to worry about this. I can deal with it. You just need to focus on merging with the heaven and earth spirit fire. Ling Xiao shook his head and his expression was solemn. If you're ready, let's begin. Young master, Su Yen was obviously uneasy, and there was a hint of farewell in her beautiful eyes. Don't worry. No matter what happens, I won't leave you. I will protect you by your side. With me around, nothing will happen to you. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and pinched Su Yan's beautiful face. Hearing this, Su Yan's eyes were filled with gratitude. She nodded slightly and finally took out the crimson fire from her universe ring. Boom! Terrifying heat instantly engulfed the entire heaven and earth. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes and waved his hand. Dense water vapor turned into a barrier and enveloped the entire barren mountain. Yen-er, go for it. Eat it. Young master, if I die today, please, bury me here. Su Yen smiled miserably and no longer hesitated. She merged the crimson fire into her body. Boom! A strange fluctuation that made one's heart palpitate instantly spread out from her body. Outside her body, flames and cold air intertwined and swallowed each other. For a moment they were in a stalemate. Ling Xiao waved his hand in front of Su Yen. Seeing that she was completely immersed in cultivation, he immediately turned around and walked down the mountain. Emperor! My lord! Looking at the figure descending from the sky, Xing Shun and Hua Heng stopped what they were doing and stood at attention. Then they bowed deeply. Thank you for your hard work. Ling Xiao nodded and turned to look at the ancient palace in front of him and the stone steps that led to the sky. At this moment, the entire palace had begun to take shape and the stone steps were a few 100 feet high. It would probably be completed in a few more days. At that time, this place, My lord, you're working. Not at all. Xing Shun and Hua Heng stood at attention again and said, let's continue. Ling Xiao turned around, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. System, come out. Master, Ling Xiao. Identity. Young master of the Universal Demon Sect, the successor of the Ling people of the ancient family, the leader of the Sky Demon Palace. Divine Constitution. Second transformation of the Sky Demon Real Body, Forbidden Constitution. Cultivation. Third rank Divine General. Spiritual Treasures. Immemorial Demonic Saber, Grade Unknown. 8 Baron Glaze Demon Subduing Pagoda, Divine Treasure. Emperor's Robe, High Grade Doctrine Artifact. Great Void White Lotus, Middle Grade Doctrine Artifact. Bloodthirsty Ghost Pearl, High Grade Doctrine Artifact. Purple Gold Divine Hammer, High Grade Doctrine Artifact. Cultivation Arts. Universal Demon Art, Sky Demon Sutra, Sky Demon Real Body, Talent. Eye of Devastation, Talent. Sky Demon Eyes, Blood Moon Forbidden. Zone, Soul Catcher Ancient Skill, forbidden skill, great barren heaven imprisoning seal, soul skill, burning scripture, immemorial emperor's flame. Principles: thunder, complete; sword, complete; wind, enlightened; water, flourishing; flame, enlightened; origin, enlightened; darkness, complete; slaughter, flourishing. Spiritual beast: immemorial demon dragon, middle stage of Paong. Destined body, progress, 1%. Luck, 3200. Villain points, 30,000. Middle stage of Paong? Ling Xiao was startled. Hua Hua had reached the middle stage of Paong while sleeping? Hua Hua. Buzz! Ling Xiao felt a chill on his thigh and saw Hua Hua appear in front of him with a pair of confused eyes. You're already in the middle stage of Paong, but you still can't transform and open your mouth? Are you born with some kind of disease? Awoo! Hua Hua bared its teeth and pretended to be fierce. I have something good here. Maybe it can help you break through again. Ling Xiao smiled faintly while Hua Hua's eyes flashed with greed. When Su Yan surrendered, the system had rewarded him with a drop of divine dragon blood. Even though it was a treasure to strengthen one's body, Ling Xiao's sky demon true form was the strongest divine body in the world. So, this drop of blood was not very useful to him. He might as well give it to Hua Hua. It might help it become a divine general and form a core. After all, the ancient monsters had terrifying bloodlines. A grade 6 divine elixir could only help it reach the first level of Paong. But a Paong beast could only be used as a mount for Ling Xiao. But a mount wasn't a necessity. If the divine dragon blood couldn't help Hua Hua reach the divine general level, then he could consider a feast of dragon meat. I don't need you to spit it out. I'll just eat you again. I want it. Ling Xiao patted Hua Hua's head and looked at the lake in the distance. Why don't you show me a waterspout? Chapter 336. Go and perform well. This drop of holy dragon blood essence is yours. A drop of golden holy blood in Ling Xiao's hand emitted a monstrous spiritual light. A trace of crystal flowed from the corner of Floey's mouth. Without hesitation, she transformed into her original form and rushed towards the lake. But just as she opened her mouth angrily and was about to suck up all the water in the lake, flames suddenly shot up from the mountain where Su Yan was, dyeing the entire sky red. Huh? It merged so quickly? Ling Xiao was stunned. He threw the drop of dragon blood at Floey and disappeared instantly. On the peak of the barren mountain, Ling Xiao looked at the snow-white figure in front of him with a grave expression. At this moment, Su Yan's outer clothes had already been burned to ashes. Even her skin had turned red. The flames and yin qi fused together, faintly forming the shape of two fish above her head. But for some reason, Su Yan's face seemed to be in great pain. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted and cold sweat flowed down her forehead. In an instant, it turned into a wisp of white mist and rose into the air. What's going on? Gradually, Su Yan's aura became more and more turbulent. She actually showed signs of turning into a demon. But Ling Xiao was a villain and naturally didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, if he attracted the heavenly Tao's punishment, he was afraid that he wouldn't be helping Su Yan at all and might even implicate her. Boom! Just as Ling Xiao was at his wit's end, Su Yan suddenly opened her eyes. Her red eyes made Ling Xiao's body tremble involuntarily. It can't be. Young master, it's so hot. Yes. Gulp. Before Ling Xiao could refute, Su Yan had already pounced on him and directly pressed him under her body. Yener, don't be rash. Boom. A scorching heat instantly entered Ling Xiao's body. That feeling was sometimes warm and sometimes cold, but inexplicably had a different kind of mystery. For a full 6 hours, the barren mountain was surging like waves, and Ling Xiao's figure was like a small boat swaying in the ocean, forced to go with the flow. It wasn't until the flames around Su Yan's body dissipated and she was drenched in sweat that she seemed to have exhausted all her strength. She gently leaned against Ling Xiao. The fragrance exhaled from her mouth contained a trace of satisfaction, and her pair of moving eyes were filled with shyness. At this moment, Ling Xiao was slightly stunned. 2500 Providence, Yin Yang Dao Law. Damn! As expected of the woman of destiny. He had actually comprehended a Dao law in such a comfortable time? Suddenly, Ling Xiao felt that he didn't feel guilty about taking the 100 million spirit stones. Living off a woman doesn't taste good. Who? Young master, for the sake of the film, Su Yan maintained her posture and snuggled in Ling Xiao's embrace. Her face was flushed red, but her eyes were exceptionally bright. Are you happy? The corners of Ling Xiao's mouth suddenly curled into a sinister smile. Su Yan frowned slightly, as though she was begging for mercy. Young master, don't. I'm still feeling terrible. But Ling Xiao didn't care about her pleas, and he stretched out his hand and hugged her tightly. The sound of the waves was endless, and it was like the sound of nature. And the young girl's initial rejection gradually turned into an inexplicable desire. When the blood moon hung high in the sky, Ling Xiao carried Su Yan and flew out, landing in the lake at the foot of the mountain. The lake water was ice cold, and it instantly dissipated the heat in their bodies. Young master, are you leaving? Su Yan stretched out her hand and wrapped it around Ling Xiao's neck. Her beautiful eyes were misty. You just merged with the spiritual fire, and I'm afraid that it's still a little unstable. When you go back, follow the ancient method that I taught you and refine the yin qi. Your body has been poisoned by the yin qi for more than 10 years, and I think that it's not something that can be recovered in a day. Ling Xiao nodded and stretched out his hand to wipe away the tears on Su Yan's face. Then I'll stay here, okay? I'll stay here, and I don't want to go anywhere. Su Yan shook her head and looked at Ling Xiao expectantly. There's no trace of spiritual qi in this area. After I'm done, I'll send someone to bring you over. But, young master, be obedient, oh. In the end, Su Yan lowered her head in grievance and leaned gently on Ling Xiao's shoulder. Young master, then hurry up, don't let Yen'er wait for too long, in front of Dao Enlightenment City. Ling Xiao and Su Yan came over hand in hand. At this moment, Su Yan was wearing a snow-white dress, and it was extremely compatible with Ling Xiao. Su Yan, who was dressed in red, had a hint of arrogance in her sickly look. But at this moment she was 70% weak and 30% gentle. But just as the two of them were about to enter the city, Ling Xiao's expression suddenly froze. He released Su Yan's hand and smiled faintly. All right, Yen'er, let's stop here. Send my regards to Uncle Su. Are you leaving already? Can't you leave tomorrow morning after one more night? Su Yan's beautiful eyes reddened, and there seemed to be reluctance in them. She knew that this parting would be very long. For a man like Ling Xiao, sooner or later, he would step onto the peak of heaven and earth. To him, love might just be a scenery on the path of immortality. What she had to do was to try her best to catch up with his footsteps and not fall too far behind him. Only then could she be by his side often. Fortunately, I still have that poem to accompany me. If two people's feelings are everlasting, why would they be together day and night? This is the poem that young master wrote for me. Go, cultivate on time, and don't slack off. Ling Xiao looked deeply at Su Yan and turned to walk towards the distant mountains. Young master! In front of Dao Enlightenment City, Su Yan clenched her jade-like hands tightly as she watched the white-robed figure walk away. Tears finally fell from her eyes. Even when he walked out of her sight, she was still at a loss. That aura just now, was it Qin-chan? In the ancient forest at the foot of the mountain, Ling Xiao looked in the direction of Dao Enlightenment City and saw a green-robed figure slowly walking out with a cold expression on her face. If it wasn't Yi Qin-chan, who else could it be? But at this moment, Yi Qin-chan seemed to be a little different from before. On her beautiful and fair face, there was some unfamiliar coldness. As if she felt the cold aura behind her, Su Yan frowned slightly. She turned her head and coincidentally saw the green-robed figure. Their eyes met, and absolute coldness and heat spread between heaven and earth. Indistinctly, the space where the two of them were instantly rippled with 10,000 layers of ripples. Inexplicably, the two of them looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Time seemed to have stopped. Beneath Tao Comprehension City, the two similarly peerless beauties were staring at each other. Even though there wasn't the slightest fluctuation emanating from their bodies, their eyes contained a wisp of indescribably complicated enmity. But in the end, Yi Qingchan's face suddenly bloomed with a radiant smile. She nodded slightly and said, "Sister is so beautiful. Sister is also so alluring." Su Yen lowered her head and chuckled, but her eyes were still piercingly cold. Their shoulders brushed past each other. Two different directions, but they seemed to be walking on the same path with no return. In the ancient forest, Ling Xiao gently heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Yi Qingchan shouldn't have seen him. After all, the two of them couldn't be compared to the level of his divine soul. But inexplicably, he felt that Su Yen and Yi Qingchan seemed to be very hostile towards each other. So, other than luck, this woman's sixth sense was really mysterious. And extreme ice Tao law? It seemed like Yi Qingchan's innate intelligence was about to awaken. Chapter 337. That figure just now, was it young master? Yi Qingchan's eyes were clear and cold. She seemed a little confused. Humph, can't you see it? That Ling Xiao is simply a rogue. What good will come of following such a person? Merge with me and step onto the peak of the world. You will understand how vast this world is. In her sea of soul, the cold and arrogant woman's voice sounded again. The peak of the world, if there is no young master, what's the point? Yi Qingchan's lips curled into a smile. She lifted her feet and walked forward. Young master, where are you? Qingchan is really worried about you. Nian Qingyun is dead, but you still have Qingchan. You are simply stupid. Don't you feel that there is an evil aura on Ling Xiao? He can deceive others, but he can't deceive me. I am too familiar with this aura. He is a demon. The ancient soul's voice gradually became angry. There was even a hint of resentment in it. Just now in Taishan Dao sect, she did not dare to release a trace of fluctuation. However, what puzzled her was why Taoist Taishan had some inexplicable respect for Ling Xiao? Young master? If she remembered correctly, every Taoist of Taishan Dao sect seemed to be the top of the eastern border and was respected by tens of thousands of people. However, demon? Pfft. Yi Qingchan suddenly covered her mouth and chuckled. A trace of ridicule flashed in her eyes. Of course, he was a demon. He was the young master of the universal demon sect. This ancient soul was really annoying. In order to slander young master, she was really unscrupulous. So what if he is a demon? If he is not tolerated by the world, then I will accompany him and kill all the people. In the end, Yi Qingchan only snorted coldly and ignored the ancient soul that was roaring angrily in her ears. Even if, one day, she would forget young master, she would also always look at her hand that was holding the sword. Because, there, she had already carved his name. Yi Qingchan lowered her head and looked at the two scars on her wrist that had already healed. In the blur it was the two words, Ling Xiao. True love was just like this. How could her heart be so light? The world was bustling with life. But I just want to be with you. Side by side they waited for the sunrise. Young master, I'm not your childhood friend. It's not like you've just bloomed. But in this life, I will use my life to carve my name in your heart. Just like that day you promised me that you would never let me down in this life. Qingchan? Is that you? Just as the cold light in Yi Qingchan's eyes gradually turned cold, a cry of surprise suddenly came from the distant ancient forest. A white-robed figure descended from the sky with a surprised look on his face. On his handsome face, there was indeed a hint of paleness and haggardness. F***ck. How could he not be haggard? Even if he had eaten the flood dragon meat, Ling Xiao was still somewhat exhausted from the 2 days of continuous fierce battles. No, when Flowey broke through, he had to cut off some meat from it to make up for it. If he let it revert to its original form, it wouldn't die even if it was 3 to 5 caddies. A hot pot meal would be enough. If he gave it some healing pills, it should be able to recover very quickly. Inadvertently, Ling Xiao seemed to have discovered something amazing. This was the so-called recycling, right? Wonderful. In the territory beside the lake, a figure covered in demonic light suddenly trembled for no reason. Even the aura on his body seemed to have withered. Young master! It's really you! Yi Qingchan was stunned for a full 3 breaths before she exclaimed. She turned into a shadow and threw herself into Ling Xiao's arms. Young master, I missed you! Qingchan, why are you here? Damn it! It's really Qingchan? Did she see me just now? I missed you, young master, so I came down the mountain. Young master, now that I've broken through to the late stage of Paoang, you promised me that as long as I can catch up with you, I will be by your side. Yi Qingchan looked up, revealing a delicate and fair face. Her eyes were full of anticipation. Yes. Inexplicably, a touch of warmth flashed across Ling Xiao's eyes. He could see the sadness and nervousness on Yi Qingchan's face just now. Perhaps in her heart, he was her only family in this world. Although she always looked cold in front of others, whenever she saw him, she would instantly change back to the innocent smile she had in the northern wilderness. This feeling was very good. Simple, pure, and free from the complexity of this world. It was very peaceful. But why was there a struggle in her eyes? Was it because of that innate wisdom? She already had 3,000 providence points. In just a few months, Yi Qingchan's providence points had surpassed most of the children of destiny in the Xingzhou. It was very scary. Your master agreed? Yes, master said to let me go down the mountain to gain experience. Yi Qingchan pursed her lips and chuckled. Suddenly, she took out countless talismans and treasures. Young master, I brought you a gift. This is, looking at the pile of ancient talismans and treasures in front of him, Ling Xiao's face turned solemn. He raised his hand and gently stroked the girl's cheek. Although she didn't submit to him from the beginning. But Ling Xiao knew that it wasn't because of her. The problem was most likely because of that innate wisdom. But now, Ling Xiao's treasures were comparable to that of a supreme orthodoxy. Why would he covet his woman's fortune? I have a great use for this talisman. Take the rest with you. Since you will be by my side, you will definitely encounter many dangers. Only if you protect yourself can I be at ease. Ling Xiao's voice was full of warmth, but when it fell on Yi Qingchan's ears, it was more or less sorrowful. Young master, are you still sad? After all, Nian Qingyun's death was too sudden. Young master, I heard, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. Especially when he saw the sorrow in Yi Qingchan's eyes, his heart skipped a beat. It can't be? Yi Qingchan heard about him and Su Yan, F***ck, who was the one who leaked the news. Qingchan, actually, I know. Nian Qingyun's death will definitely make young master sad. So, Qingchan came to accompany young master. Yi Qingchan pressed her face tightly against Ling Xiao's chest. She listened to the young man's violent heartbeat and a bright smile appeared on her face. Young master, I am really very happy. Happy? Because Nian Qingyun was dead? Suddenly, Ling Xiao felt that he had made a wise decision. He still had space and time. No matter how busy he was, he couldn't forget to take care of it. Otherwise, if these destined women had a conflict, there might be a day when their love would turn into hatred. When that time came, they probably wouldn't die. After all, they were protected by destiny. But it was hard to say. Gulp. Qingchan, thank you. I also miss you very much. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and hugged Yi Qingchan tightly. Young master, where are we going now? Why don't we return to Dao Enlightenment City and rest for a night? Yi Qingqian suddenly raised her head and looked at Ling Xiao affectionately. But the latter inexplicably trembled for a moment. This kind of gaze again. F***ck. Was this the so-called death by drought and drowning by drowning? Qingqian, why don't we return to the Ling people first? I still have some things to discuss with my father. Yuan Yu Sacred Ground and Ancient Puppet Sect have killed my brothers and friends in the secret realm. I can't take this lying down. Ling Xiao shook his head. His expression was somewhat gloomy. Yi Qingqian just smiled sweetly and nestled in Ling Xiao's arms. She softly said, I will listen to young master. Qingqian will kill whoever young master wants to kill. Chapter 338. A storm was brewing in the eastern border. What happened in the secret realm eventually spread through the mouths of those who were interested in it, and it spread throughout the eastern border. The young master of the Hunyuan ancient sect had caused trouble and chased after Ling Tian and Yi Sun from the 10,000 Swords Sacred Ground. However, his brother, Ling Xiao, had arrived and saved him before killing him. The young master of the ancient ghost clan, Chou Yi, was ruthless. He had killed the great Void Saintess and was about to attack the successor of the Cloud Alliance, Su Yin. However, he was killed by the successor of the Ling people, Ling Xiao. The holy son of the Yuan Yu Sacred Ground, Xia Chen, was a vicious person. Not only had he raped the holy daughter of the Yinfan Sacred Ground, but he had also killed Nian Qingyun. In the end, Ling Xiao took revenge for his wife and killed him with his sword. All these pieces of news sent a message. The successors of the holy sons of the eastern borders, supreme orthodoxies, were mostly hypocritical and vicious. Only the successor of the Ling people, Ling Xiao, was righteous and righteous. He was the model of the righteous path. The 9-dragon golden chariot flew across the sky and headed straight for the Ling people. At the same time, countless powerful auras from the ethereal Dao Palace, the Yinfan Sacred Ground, the 10,000 Swords Sacred Ground, the Yuan Yu Sacred Ground, and the ancient puppet sect walked out of their cave abodes and headed towards the eastern border. A rain of blood was about to fall. In front of the path of swords in the 10,000 Swords Sacred Ground, Yi Sun looked at the handsome white-haired young man in front of her with a bitter expression. Junior brother, have you really decided? Sooner, I don't want to lose you again. Moreover, brother is right. There are countless setbacks in this world. Only strength can suppress evil. Ling Tian reached out and touched Yi Sun-er's face. Moreover, brother has too much on his shoulders now. Since I have the Dan Si, I should cultivate with all my might. One day I will stand side by side with him and stand at the top of the world. But you can just cultivate in the cave abode. Why do you want to go to the peak of the path of swords? Yi Sun-er's eyes were filled with tears. For some reason, she felt that Ling Tian had changed ever since they returned from the secret realm. He was gentle and charming, and there were many more smiles on his face. Most of the time, he was alone, in a daze. However, Yi Sun-er felt that his smile was not for her. It was as if there was another figure in his heart that was even more worthy of his protection, reverence, and love. Inexplicably, Yi Sun-er felt uneasy. Although she believed that she was Ling Tian's only woman, and she had also witnessed the unwavering love in his eyes. It was inexplicable, she did not seem to be the only one. The wind lifted his green robe and messed up his white hair. But he seemed to be completely unaware. Step by step, he was determined and had no regret. My Tao is the Tao of killing. Those who I kill are those who deserve to be killed. Those who I protect are my loved ones. Even if I am the sword demon in this life, I want the world to submit to my feet. Boom! The monstrous sword intent was unparalleled. Faintly, there were immortal shadows standing. In the end, the young man disappeared into the horizon. Only his snow-white hair was like a devil's obsession. It was eye-catching, engraved in the heart, engraved in the bones, and enchanting. Junior brother, don't worry, No matter how difficult the path you choose is, I will always stand behind you. Yi Sun-er pursed her red lips and clenched her jade-like hands. Finally, she turned around and walked in the opposite direction. From today onwards, the 10,000 Swords' sacred ground was silent. There were no more cheers, nor were there any figures cuddling on the mountain path. There was only the path of the sword. The figure sitting cross-legged was like a boulder, ancient and vicissitudes of life. One day, when monsters walk out of the ancient mountains, great rivers, and secret realms in the Xingzhou, it will be the time of the sacred sect's destruction. What? My brother is a peerless sword cultivator? My pet is the 9 true dragons? My sister is the master of the sacred ground? My lover is the reincarnation of an immortal? I'm awesome? The entire Xingzhou knows? But I don't know? Is that possible? I just want to show off. Sigh. Sacred Leader 10,000 Swords sighed softly. Beside him, First Elder Jian Nan also had a complicated look in his eyes. Should we be happy? Both of them seemed to have had fortuitous encounters in Dao Comprehension Mountain. Yes. Wholeheartedly focusing on the sword is the rule of our sacred ground. But why do I feel a little sad? Forget it, forget it. The Hunyuan ancient sect, humph. How dare they kill my holy son and my personal disciple? How can we tolerate this? Of course we can't, but we still have to wait for a gust of wind. You mean, Ling people? They will definitely reach the top of the eastern border. At the same time, in the central region of the Xingzhou, Bai Ling stood in an ancient palace with an aggrieved expression. Above her, an old man in blood-red robes sat cross-legged quietly. His face seemed to be shrouded in a blood-red glow, and his appearance couldn't be seen clearly. However, the aura exuding from his body was terrifying. So, you went to Dao Comprehension Mountain in the eastern border? The old man's voice was a little hoarse, and one couldn't tell whether he was happy or sad from his tone. However, he vaguely gave off an extremely oppressive feeling. Master, didn't you always say that you want us to gain more experience? The top prodigies of the eastern border have gathered on Dao Comprehension Mountain. Chapter 339. You are the saintess of the Blood Hall. You can't expose your identity. This time, I'll punish you. You are not allowed to leave the mountain for 3 years. You can only regain your freedom after you kill your eldest senior brother. When Bai Ling's eyes became clear again, the old man in blood-red clothes snorted and disappeared. Humph, you really did search my sea of soul. Fortunately, Brother Ling Xiao was prepared. Bai Ling sneered. Her eyes were gloomy. She immediately walked out of the hall. The soul assimilation ancient skill was a forbidden technique. It could not only assimilate and control souls, but it could also conceal memories. Of course, with the strength of the master of the Blood Hall, any concealment would be useless if he forcibly searched her soul. However, with the means set up by Ling Xiao, if he really did that, Bai Ling would instantly die under the soul seal. Therefore, this was a foolproof plan. I have to think of a way to search Grandpa Qi's divine soul to confirm the identity of the white-robed swordsman. Bai Ling hesitated, but in the end she still walked toward the depths of the Blood Hall. Just as Brother Ling Xiao said, no matter how evil a cultivation method was, it depended on where it was used. Now, she only wanted to take revenge on the Lin family. That was why she did this. At most, she would let Grandpa Qi go after searching his divine soul. With this thought, the last trace of hesitation in Bai Ling's eyes disappeared. In the Ling people's territory, a black shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. Many experts of the Ling people looked up. Their bodies were glowing, but there was a touch of surprise in their eyes. How dare someone act so presumptuously in the territory of the Ling people? Doesn't he know that flying is forbidden here? When they looked up and saw the 9-dragon golden carriage, the surprise in their eyes turned into strong worship and joy. Look! It's Lord Ling Xiao! It's Lord Ling Xiao! Young master is back! Quick, look at you! Kneel down and kowtow to young master. Young master, you're finally back. I've been looking forward to your return. Today I have no regrets." The crowd began to cheer. There were even some proud girls who were so excited that their eyes went dark, and their bodies went soft as they collapsed to the ground. It was just that, very suddenly, it went soft. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, his expression calm. "Look, young master saw me. What right do I have to enter young master's eyes? Young master is not worth it. With my filthy body, I will only dirty your wise eyes." Yi Qingchan's beautiful eyes were filled with shock as she looked down at the cheering and wailing city below her. She was very familiar with this scene. Back when Ling Xiao was in the northern wilderness, such scenes were everywhere he went. But she really didn't expect that after returning to the Xingzhou continent, her young master would still be the heavenly being that was the center of attention. Sure enough, wherever the king went, there would be people. His innate majesty and destiny would not be changed by the region he was in. Inexplicably, Yi Qingchan quietly moved her delicate body closer to Ling Xiao. This feeling of being admired and envied by others made her very happy. "Look, young master looks a little haggard." "Yes. I heard that goddess Nian died in Xia Chen's hands." "Fight! Destroy Yuan Yu's sacred ground and avenge young mistress. Quickly, quickly go and bring me my 40-meter-long machete. I can't suppress the fighting spirit in my body anymore." The cheering crowd instantly fell into a frenzy. That terrifying fighting spirit vaguely turned into a bloody cloud that shrouded the sky above Cold Sky City. At this time, Ling Xiao just nodded slightly and took Yi Qingchan to the Ling people's secret realm. "Young master, these are all. I am Ling people's vassal. Oh, young master, if one day I am forced to be your enemy, will you kill me too?" Suddenly, a trace of sadness flashed across Yi Qingchan's face, and her tone was unhurried. Qingchan, what nonsense are you talking about?" Ling Xiao frowned slightly and turned to look at Yi Qingchan's pair of clear and sad eyes. He gently shook his head. "I don't believe that there is anyone in this world who can turn us against each other. If there is, then I will kill that person." "Yes." Yi Qingchan's face lit up with a brilliant smile. He had the same thoughts as Qingchan. When the two entered the secret realm, another round of cheers began to ring out. Ling Tianlin stood in front of the Ling people's ancient temple and looked at the two figures descending from the sky. Behind him, the elders of the 9 branches of the Ling people waited quietly with a faint trace of pride in their eyes. In the past few days, Ling Zhao's name had completely spread throughout the eastern border. However, compared to his previous notoriety, this time, all the major forces in the eastern border knew that the successor of the Ling people was righteous, upright, and the light of the righteous path. Crushing a generation and invincible immortal appearance were already a cliché. However, this trip to the secret realm made everyone know that only the successor of the Ling people could bear the title of invincible. Xia Chen, Chou Yi, and Shangguan Qinghe had defeated Nian Qingyun, Hua Yang, and Ling Tian respectively. However, Ling Xiao alone had crushed the 3 of them into ashes. How domineering and holy was this! True, unparalleled in the eastern border, invincible among the younger generation, heaven-defying, number 1. Absolutely unparalleled. Xiao Ling Tianlin's face was filled with sadness and relief. Before Ling Zhao's figure landed, he had already stepped forward and hugged him tightly in his arms. "My son, you have the bearing of a supreme being. You have suffered a lot on this trip." "Father," a trace of embarrassment flashed across Ling Zhao's face. Everyone knew that Ling Tianlin and the moon of Xianyuan doted on their son. Otherwise, the previous Ling Xiao wouldn't have such a domineering and unruly character. The phrase, "My father is Emperor Ling," had been used throughout Ling Zhao's short life. "Father, I want..." The 8,000 people of the Ling people are all on standby. The 4 vassal states and 10,000 experts are ready. The Qin clan's patriarch, Qin Ling, has led the elders of the Qin clan to Cold Sky City early this morning. I think they will arrive later. Ling Tianlin's eyes narrowed slightly. His face had regained its usual dignity. This time, I will be your vanguard and listen to your orders. Yuanyu holy ground will be destroyed by you. Father. Ling Zhao's face trembled slightly. You are indeed worthy of your reputation. An ambitious and ruthless person. Who in the eastern border wasn't afraid of the name of Emperor Ling? Okay. This is. Ling Tianlin turned to look at Yi Qinchan. The latter's pretty face froze and she hurriedly bowed. She had heard that young master's father was the top emperor god in the eastern border. She just didn't expect that this ferocious and overbearing emperor god would have such a gentle side. No wonder young master's personality was like his father's. He was cruel and overbearing in front of others, but to himself, he. That's right. Ling Tianlin nodded. He took out a pair of dragon and phoenix jade pendants and handed them to Yi Qinchan. This pair was given to me and Xiao Er's mother. Father? There's no need for that. You can keep this pair as a memento. Ling Zhao's face was filled with panic. F***ck. Father, back then, Nian Qinyan died because she received your blessing. You can leave a companion for your son. Okay. I'm very sorry about Qinyan. Xiao the beauty has passed away. You must cherish the person in front of you. Ling Tian looked at Ling Xiao meaningfully before he left. My son, you will stand at the top of the world when you have 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. Revenge must be taken. But if your Dao heart is clouded because of this, it is absolutely impossible. Father, I have something to tell you. It's about Brother Tian. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly and walked towards the palace with Ling Tianlin. Chapter 340. Oh? You mean you and Tian have completely resolved the knot in your heart? In a side hall of the Ling people's sacred palace, Ling Tianlin looked at Ling Xiao in astonishment, and his tone was filled with doubt. Yes. Ling Xiao did not explain too much. Ling Tianlin was silent for a moment, but he did not ask the reason in the end. No matter what method Ling Xiao used to resolve Ling Tian's resentment, the result was good. As for the process, it was not important. Back then, he did not give Ling Tian his danci because he was worried that Ling Tian would hold a grudge and take revenge on Ling Xiao and his mother. Therefore, he often felt guilty over the years. Today, when he heard that the 2 brothers had resolved their differences, the distracting thoughts in his heart instantly dissipated. Even his cultivation base showed signs of a breakthrough. Father, I want Yuanyu sacred grounds spirit vein. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. That day, he deliberately humiliated Xiachen, not only because he wanted his luck and soul-sucking ghost pearl, but also because of Yuanyu sacred ground. Like the Cloud Dew Immortal sect, Yuanyu sacred ground was the orthodox sect of the eastern border and was respected by the orthodox sections. If he acted rashly, he would definitely attract many people to stop him. But now, Ling people used the name of avenging their successor's fiancé. Even if it was a feud between the 2 sects, it would be unreasonable for others to interfere. When sects attacked, there was a reason. If there was an unprovoked massacre and order was broken, someone would definitely act in the name of justice. As for Chou-Yi, if he did not summon the puppet that was comparable to a divine marquis, Ling Xiao might not have bothered with him and Hua Yang that day. After all, there was no luck, and there was nothing worth doing. However, when he saw the puppet's strength, Ling Xiao was tempted. It was said that there were 4 war puppets in the ancient puppet sect. The black, silver, and gold devils and a heavenly corpse puppet were the foundation of the ancient puppet sect. But now the ancient puppet sect's young master, Chou-Yi, had killed the great void saintess and attacked Yun Alliance's successor, Su Yin. There was no need for him to exist anymore. Spirit vein? Alright, when the time comes I'll capture him for you. Ling Tianlin nodded and smiled. He didn't ask what Ling Xiao was going to do. As long as he wanted, Ling Tianlin would give it to him. If he couldn't give it to her, then she would change it to a similar one. Xiao, since you want the spirit vein, we can't wait for the ethereal Tao Palace to make the first move. Father, you mean, tonight, we will attack Yuan-Yu Holy Land and avenge my daughter-in-law. The immortal light in Ling Tianlin's eyes suddenly grew thicker. An enormous force fell from the sky, causing the entire sacred hall of the Ling people to tremble for a moment. All right. A smile also appeared on Ling Zhao's face. A bloody glow flowed in his eyes. Father was right. Ling people alone would be a little troublesome to destroy Yuan-Yu Holy Land. Given the ethereal Tao Palace's conduct, they might not necessarily fall out with the Yuan-Yu Sacred Land because of Nian Qinyun. But, if Ling people made the first move, the ethereal Tao Palace would no longer hesitate. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a single person's heart that would be cold, but the hearts of thousands of disciples of the ethereal Tao Palace. Qinyun, tonight, I will use the thousands of souls of the Yuan-Yu Sacred Land as a sacrifice for your love. By the way, Xiao, there's news from the central border of Xingzhou. The sacred sect seems to have made some moves recently. Ling Tianlin frowned slightly and suddenly said softly, "Oh." Ling Xiao knew that Ling Tianlin had been planting spies in the central border of Xingzhou since he was born. His purpose was naturally to monitor the sacred sect's every move to prevent any accidents. He just didn't expect that this day would come so soon. Since his father mentioned it, the sacred sect must have noticed something. As long as it was a sect or a holy land, there would be many people in the sect who would investigate the heavenly fate Tao. As the ruler of Xingzhou, the sacred sect had many experts. They might be able to detect the changes in Xingzhou's fate. It seemed that he had to make some plans. According to the news from the spies, the sacred sect has sent out divine envoys to various places. They seem to be looking for someone, but the specific purpose is still unknown. The coldness in Ling Tianlin's eyes turned into a whirlpool, like the sun in winter. I understand, Father. Ling Xiao only nodded and didn't say anything. He knew that he would face this situation sooner or later. It seemed that he had to hurry to the western border. Only when he was in a chaotic world would he be able to grow faster. After all, the more chaotic a place was, the stronger the Son of Destiny would be. What Ling Xiao wanted to do was to change a place and harvest some leek. At the same time, he would secretly establish a force that belonged to him. Patriarch, the master of the Qin clan, Qinling, is outside the hall. He wants to see you. Ling Shan's voice suddenly came from outside the hall. Ling Tianlin and Ling Xiao smiled at each other and walked out of the hall. Since everyone had arrived, the expedition began. Ling Xiao. Young master. In the hall, Qinling was wearing a golden robe. His hair was combed to the top of his head, and he wore a purple-gold dragon crown. He looked like a king. But at this moment, when he saw Ling Xiao, a hint of joy flashed across his eyes. I heard that young master has returned to the clan today. I have specially led the elders of the Qin clan to congratulate young master. We hope that young master will become famous after the battle at Tao Comprehension Mountain. Qinling bowed and Ling Xiao only nodded slightly. His eyes were calm. Since everyone is here, let's go. The Yuan-Yu saint, Xiachen, killed my fiancé. This hatred is irreconcilable. Ling people will avenge this hatred even if I have to use all my strength. As soon as he finished speaking, lightning flashed around Ling Zhao's body. An invisible pressure surged, causing the entire hall to be suppressed. Fight! The 9 branches of the Ling people responded. Everyone's face was filled with cold hatred. Let's go. Ling Xiao took the lead and flew out of the hall. The 9 dragons' golden carriage descended from the sky and stood in front of the hall. Yi Qingchan came from the side and sat on the carriage with Ling Xiao. Just as the carriage was about to take off, Qin Ling stepped out from the crowd and stood in front of the carriage. He smiled foolishly and said, "Young master, I came in a hurry and didn't have a ride. Can you?" Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. Qin Ling's body trembled. "It's Lung. I've crossed the line." "Young master, you are indeed Ling, the star that I can only look at but not reach." Boom! Suddenly there was a gust of wind. A demonic shadow suddenly descended from the sky and covered the entire sky of the Ling people's sacred ground. It was the guardian beast of the Ling people, the golden-winged eagle. It was also Ling Tianlin's mount when he was young. When it spread its wings, it could cover a distance of 276 feet. When it spread its wings, it could cover 10,000 miles. It was one of the 10 kings of the Ling people. Roar! As if it was intimidated by the blood qi of the demonic eagle, the 9-headed dragon instantly prostrated itself on the ground and became dispirited. However, Flowey was still fusing with the dragon blood. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ling Xiao did not want to disturb it. "Let's go!" Boom! The entire Ling people's sacred ground instantly fell into an uproar. Ling Xiao put away the dragon carriage and stood on the head of the golden eagle with Yi Qinchan in his arms. Behind him, countless figures with powerful auras stood quietly and flew toward the distant sky. Suddenly, a demonic wind blew in the eastern border. Everyone looked at the demonic shadow that covered the starlight in the night sky. There was nothing but astonishment in their eyes. That demonic shadow seems to be the golden-winged eagle of the Ling people? It seems to be. This golden eagle hasn't stepped out of the Ling people's territory for 200 years, right? What's going on? You don't know? Lord Ling Zhao's fiancée is dead. She was killed by Yuan Yu's holy son. Young master returned to the clan this time to discuss the conquest of Yuan Yu's sacred ground, right? Chapter 341. Ethereal Dao Palace, the main hall at the peak. The Ethereal Dao Palace master was dressed in a black and white Taoist robe. Her face was extremely gloomy. The elders of the Holy Ji Palace stood on both sides of the hall, their eyes filled with absolute coldness. "Palace master, that Yuan Yu holy son is sinister and cunning. He killed our goddess. This grudge is absolutely irreconcilable." At the front, an old woman with white hair shouted coldly. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. She had watched Nian Qingyun grow up. She was also the hope of the Ethereal Dao Palace. Now that she was dead, the Ethereal Dao Palace's luck was gone. However, Yuan Yu Holy Ground was also a supreme sect. Once the two sects started a war, it would definitely involve many people. This was the reason why the Ethereal Dao Palace master hesitated. Nian Qingyun's death also made her furious. However, if they started a war rashly, the Ethereal Dao Palace would definitely suffer a great loss. Once they were targeted, they would be doomed eternally. Moreover, she cultivated the great Dao of ruthlessness. Nian Qingyun's death did not cause any cracks in her Dao heart. On the contrary, in the Ethereal Dao Palace master's opinion, this was her tribulation. After this, her cultivation would definitely improve. As long as she did not die, the Ethereal Dao Palace would not fall. Report. At this moment, a disciple suddenly rushed in from outside the Dao Palace. His face was filled with joy. "Palace Master, the Ling people have mobilized their entire clan. Lord Ling Xiao and the Divine Condor are heading towards Yuan Yu Holy Ground." "What? Mobilize their entire clan?" The Ethereal Dao Palace master's face trembled. She seemed to be surprised. It turned out that her master was not as good as Yun Er's husband who was going through a tribulation? That made sense. Ling Zhao's tyrannical and cruel reputation had already spread throughout the eastern border. It was not surprising that he would do such a reckless thing. However, how could someone as formidable as Lord Ling allow him to do as he pleased? Could it be that the Ling people had other people to rely on? "Palace Master, is Yun Er's death really going to be avenged by the Ling people?" In the main hall, many elders' faces began to change. They cultivated the Tao of ruthlessness, but today it was really difficult for them to swallow this anger. Gather the experts in the palace. Yuanyu Holy Mountain tonight. Yes. It was very inexplicable. The group of Holy Ji Palace cultivators, who had spent their entire lives cultivating the great path of ruthlessness, suddenly felt much better than suppressing their hearts. All living beings had 7 emotions and 6 desires. If one's comprehension was insufficient and had to suppress it, how could one's thoughts be smooth? Boom! Suddenly, a demonic aura filled the sky above Yuanyu Holy Land. The originally gloomy sky had completely lost all its luster. The stars and moon were lost. Upon closer inspection, it was actually a demonic figure that was 100 feet long. Above the demonic figure, there seemed to be a white-robed figure standing with his hands behind his back. His handsome face carried a hint of coldness. Buzz. With a buzzing sound, the holy winged golden-feathered eagle turned into its human form and stood behind Ling Xiao. The 9 meridians of the Ling people and their 4 vassals all showed themselves and stood respectfully. As if they had already expected this day's situation, countless experts from the Holy Lands looked up from the peak of the Saint Mountain. Thousands of disciples stood in front of the main hall in the square with solemn expressions. However, at this time, there was no panic in their eyes. Instead, they were full of fighting spirit. In the eyes of all the elders and disciples of Yuanyu Holy Land, their holy son was the embodiment of justice, strength, and gentleness. In their eyes, he was the dawn of the righteous path, the dawn of the immortal path, and the lighthouse in the darkness. As for Ling Xiao, this notorious descendant of the Ling people was cruel, bloodthirsty, and greedy. It was said that at the end of the martial arts competition, Nian Qingyun had wanted to kill him with her sword. But now, he was framing Xia Chen for killing Nian Qingyun? There must be a conspiracy behind this. Even now, all the sects in the eastern border were praising Ling Xiao's righteousness, but the elders and disciples of Yuanyu Holy Land didn't believe it at all. This was a trap that the Ling people had carefully set up to satisfy their own ambitions. Their purpose was naturally to suppress Yuanyu Holy Land and achieve the supreme hegemony of the Ling people. Of course, no matter what the truth was, it was no longer important now. The conspiracy had already begun, and the gears of fate would never stop moving. What they wanted to do was to avenge Holy Son Xia Chen. Especially those disciples of the Holy Land who usually respected Xia Chen. Their eyes flashed with hatred, which was dazzling in the darkness. Holy Lord! Let's fight! We are willing to kill this bastard for the Holy Son. Countless disciples of the Holy Land raised their arms and shouted excitedly. Yuanyu Holy Lord just shook his head slightly, and his eyes flashed with green light. He didn't expect that the Ling people would come so quickly. Ling people had arrived before the informants he had planted in Cold Sky City could send back information. Fortunately, they were just Ling people now. It was impossible for them to destroy Yuanyu Holy Land. Haha, Emperor Ling, are you trying to walk into a trap by visiting us so late at night? Yuanyu Holy Lord raised his head and looked at the white-clothed young man standing on the dragon's head with a gloomy expression. Recently, rumors about this young Master Ling people had been spreading like wildfire in the eastern border. He had killed Xia Chen, Chou Yi, and Shangguanqinghe. The sects shouldn't interfere in the fight between the younger generation, but the people he had killed were the young masters of the top forces in the eastern border. Even so, Ling people had the ethereal Tao Palace, the myriad Tao demon sect, and the Dan origin sacred ground behind them. Once the two orthodoxies started a war, the ancient puppet sect and the origin sacred ground wouldn't sit back and do nothing. In other words, Yuanyu Holy Land wouldn't lose this war. However, Ling Tianlin ignored them and turned to Ling Xiao. Xiao Yuanyu's holy son, Xia Chen, was a ghost cultivator. He used ghost techniques to kill my fiancée, Nian Qingyun. Today, I sentence Yuan Yu Holy Land to be destroyed. I will use the blood of your 3,000 disciples and elders as a sacrifice to my deceased wife's soul in heaven. Ling Zhao's face was expressionless, as though he was a deity who was judging sins. Even his eyes were cold and indifferent. Nonsense. Ling Xiao, everyone knows that you are a bastard. You killed our holy son and slandered our reputation. Today, thousands of disciples of Yuan Yu Holy Land will be killed by your sword. Some of the heavenly talents in the crowd shouted angrily. Obviously, they were angry at Ling Xiao for slandering them. Haha, Lord Ling Xiao, you have a glib tongue. Are you saying that my Yuan Yu Holy Land has become a ghost cultivator? Humph, you killed my disciple. Shouldn't you give me an explanation for this? Yuan Yu Holy Master snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. His cultivation was the same as Holy Master Yun Shu's. He was a 5th-grade divine emperor and was one of the top existences in the eastern border. Ling people had 3 emperors and 10 kings, but Yuan Yu Holy Land still had 2 emperors and 7 elders. Moreover, this was his holy land. He had the geographical advantage. Now, all the disciples and elders were united. So, Ling people were nothing. Fight. Ling Xiao only said one word, and lightning seemed to fill the sky around him, illuminating thousands of miles of the sky as bright as day. How dare you? Ling people dare to behave atrociously in my Yuan Yu Holy Land. Today, I will make sure you don't leave. Yuan Yu Holy Master smiled disdainfully. His aura suppressed the world. In the depths of the Holy Land, a terrifying aura suddenly woke up from its slumber. The mountains began to tremble and the sky seemed to be collapsing. A monstrous figure slowly walked over. It was a huge black lizard with 4 horns on its head. It was Yuan Yu Holy Master's trump card. An ancient dragon lizard that was a 1st-grade divine emperor. As a result, Yuan Yu's sacred ground now had 3 god emperors. Chapter 342. The ancient dragon lizard contained a wisp of the true dragon's bloodline. It was said that when old ancestor Yuan Yu traveled to this place, he saw a great demon entrenched in the mountain and wanted to kill it. However, he didn't expect the demon to be so intelligent despite its strong defense. That was why he wanted to tame it. When he saw the mountain, spirit veins, and plants here, he wanted to establish a sect. However, although the ancient dragon lizard had a strong physical body and could absorb spirit veins to cultivate, its intelligence didn't grow much in the past few hundred years. It only had the appearance of a 6 or 7-year-old child. Other than sleeping, it didn't have any other hobbies. Therefore, even the outer disciples of Yuan Yu's sacred ground didn't know there was such a demonic beast protecting their sect. It was precisely because of this that it had become one of Yuan Yu's trump cards. Roar. When the demonic figure arrived in the sky above the main hall, it looked at the Ling people with its blood-red eyes. Its actions were completely under Yuan Yu's sacred leader's command. In other words, it was an instinctive submission. However, the more it acted like this, the more it was unscrupulous. Once it attacked, it wouldn't stop until it was dead. It was a peerless, ferocious demon. A god-tharch demonic beast? The golden rock frowned slightly. A hint of fear flashed through his eyes. The bloodline of the dragon race had yet to develop intelligence. Although it had its disadvantages, it was more ferocious. Is this what Yuan Yu's sacred ground is relying on? Ling Tianlin smiled faintly, and the void behind him seemed to ripple for a moment. Gui Ying's existence was also a secret to the sects of the eastern border. To put it bluntly, Gui Ying alone was enough to deal with Yuan Yu's sacred leader. Since Emperor Ling wants to fight, Yuan Yu's sacred ground will naturally do our best. However, all the experts of the Ling people are here. I wonder how long the Ling people can survive if they die here? Yuan Yu's sacred leader was fearless. He had more trump cards than this god-tharch demonic beast. However, the Ling people were too strong. If the 2 great orthodoxies fought, both sides would suffer. If Ling Xiao knew what was good for him, he would kneel down and apologize. Yuan Yu's sacred ground could reconcile with him. Sacred leader, you don't have to worry about this. Xiao Ling Tianlin smiled, as if he was asking for Ling Xiao's opinion. At that moment, a playful look flashed in the latter's eyes as he called out softly, "Flower." Boom! A dragon's dragon lizard appeared in the sky. Its ferocious eyes of dragon lizards, of course. Of the dragon's heads of. It's of course, it of the dragons of the dragon race. Even so, the moment he appeared, the demonic aura around the dragon lizard trembled and almost collapsed. Roar! The demon lizard, which had been baring its fangs and brandishing its claws, immediately felt its legs go soft, and it lowered its head when it saw the terrifying demonic shadow that was over 50 kilometers long. Even the golden eagle beside Ling Tianlin had a look of fear in its eyes. Dragons of the Ling. T-tut to die tut-es. To dragoness A of the Tutessus even Ling Tianlin and the rest of the Emperor God experts were stunned by the demonic aura that was released casually. A true? Yuan Yu's sacred master's face turned gloomy when he saw a dragon lizard crawling in the air with its legs limp. He had never imagined that there would be a true dragon standing next to the successor of the Ling people. Although the demonic dragon's demonic qi wasn't strong, its demonic qi was terrifying. Ling Xiao, do you think you can do whatever you want with this? Humph. Sacred leader Yuan Yu clenched his teeth. Clear light flashed in his hand. An ancient array appeared above his head. The sun, the moon, the stars, the rivers, and the sea were formed. Unparalleled Tao will spread and enveloped the entire Yuan Yu sacred ground. Yuan Yu sacred ground's inherited Tao artifact, Taishan Mountain and River Map. This time, a solemn look flashed across Ling Tianlin's eyes. He knew about the map's existence. This Tao artifact could not only form the power of heaven and earth, but also trap all living things. It was extremely difficult to deal with. But, trying to scare the Ling people with just a Tao artifact was a bit wishful thinking. I have a Tao artifact too. Ling Xiao smiled faintly as the demonic saber appeared in his hand. It seemed to contain an ancient power. Although it didn't fluctuate, it was enough to scare the heavens. You don't know what's good for you. Sacred leader Yuan Yu waved his hand. The ancient mountain river map expanded in the wind and instantly enveloped the Ling people. Heaven and earth seemed to have fallen into darkness. Then, mountains and auspicious clouds appeared. Apparently, everyone had entered the map. Ling Xiao and Ling Tianlin didn't move from the beginning to the end. If they wanted to destroy the Yuan Yu sacred ground, they had to break the map. All changes follow the same principle. Break it with force. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Behind him, countless rays of light suddenly lit up. Attacks whizzed across the sky and landed on the deity item in the map. Ha, everything is in vain in this map. Ling Tianlin, if you can make Ling Xiao kneel in the ancestral hall of the sacred ground for 10 days, I will consider letting the Ling people go. Sacred leader Yuan Yu sneered. However, just as he finished speaking, a stream of light suddenly flashed across the sky. An enormous sword of clear radiance slashed through the sky and smashed down fiercely towards his head. Sacred leader Yuan Yu's expression changed drastically. Beside him, Grand Elder Yuan Yu waved his hand and formed a seal in the air to block the shocking sword. Boom! Terrifying spiritual wind spread in all directions, sweeping many disciples of the sacred ground to the ground. At this moment, figures appeared in the sky. The person in the lead was wearing a black and white robe. It was the Misty Palace Master, Serene. Emperor Ling, the Misty Palace is here to help you break this array. Behind her, the elders of the Misty Palace channeled their spiritual power. A force of heaven and earth pressed down, causing many elders of the sacred ground to change their expressions. The Misty Palace had finally arrived at the most critical moment. Withdraw. Sacred leader Yuan Yu didn't dare to hesitate at all. The ancient seal in his hand changed, and the picture of mountains and rivers that trapped the Ling people suddenly disappeared into thin air. It turned into a celestial screen that covered the peak of the sacred mountain. Boom! Countless streams of light fell. Even with sacred leader Yuan Yu's cultivation, he felt his blood boil and his aura gradually wither. Damn it! Don't panic, sacred leader. The ancient puppet sect is here to help you. Just as the people of Yuan Yu's sacred ground were filled with resentment, spiritual light flashed across the sky again. Ancient and eerie auras slowly walked over and stood in front of the people of the Misty Palace. There were 2 emperors, 5 kings, and 3 demonic puppets that didn't have any aura but were ferocious. One was gold, one was silver, and one was dressed in black and had a withered face. The 4 war puppets of the ancient puppet sect? Ling Zhao's eyes became more playful. It seemed that someone couldn't wait to give him a chance. Ha ha, it's so lively. Shower, have you forgotten your master? Demonic aura suddenly surged in the sky like the roar of the sea. Then, Wan Rendi and the other elders of the demonic sect all arrived and looked at the people on the mountain peak with cold eyes. How dare you kill my daughter-in-law? Yuan Yu's sacred ground will be destroyed today. A delicate voice resounded in the sky. Moon of Xianyuan had a cold expression on her face as she walked over with her hands behind her back. Her red dress was particularly eye-catching in the night sky, making her look like an empress. Sacred leader Yuan Yu's gloomy face instantly turned ferocious. Chapter 343. Damn it! These greedy old bastards! Yuan Yu's sacred ground was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Yuan Yu's sacred lord raised his head and looked at the countless figures standing in the sky. A trace of fear finally appeared in his eyes. He did not expect such a situation to occur. However, he did not expect the myriad Tao Devil sect and the Dan Origin sacred ground to come so quickly. Early this morning, he had already sent elders to the ancient puppet sect and the Origin sacred ground. His purpose was naturally to unite the 2 sections. It was better to be prepared. However, the elders he sent out had not yet returned, but the Ling people and the others had already arrived. In other words, he had still underestimated the Ling people. He had underestimated the descendant of the Ling people who was still in the sky. No matter how Nian Qingyun died, Xia Chen was already dead. This grudge should have ended here. However, he did not expect the descendant of the Ling people to use this as an excuse to destroy Yuan Yu's sacred ground. Ridiculous! Ridiculous! However, he did not expect that these supreme sacred grounds would be willing to accompany him in his ridiculous act. Of course, with Yuan Yu's sacred lord's thoughts, how could he not know what Wan Rendi and the others were thinking? As long as there were benefits to be gained, there would always be some beasts that smelled blood. At this moment, there must be experts from other sects hiding in the night sky. Once this battle began, Yuan Yu's sacred ground would have no way to retreat. Ling Tianlin stood in front of the crowd and looked at the beautiful figure in red who was slowly walking over with a complicated expression. There was a gentle and fearful smile on his face. You are also here. My son, why didn't you tell me such a big thing happened? Moon of Xuanyuan's expression was as cold as ice. She did not even look at Ling Tianlin. Instead, she glared at Ling Xiao angrily. Mother, I did not expect to come today, Ling Xiao smiled awkwardly. His mother's temper was usually as calm as an ancient well, cold and indifferent. However, when it came to him, she would change into a different person. Young master. Lin Meng followed the moon of Xianyuan closely and took the opportunity to smile sweetly at Ling Xiao. Today, Lin Meng was also wearing a red dress. Heat waves were quietly rippling around her body. In just 1 month, she had also stepped into the middle stage of Paoang. Another flame emperor. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and nodded slightly. Then, he looked at Yuan Yu's sacred lord with a cold gaze. I'll give you the explanation you want. Today, Yuan Yu Holy Land will not leave even a chicken or dog alive. A monstrous ferocity quietly pervaded the entire world. Even the surrounding god emperors and god kings looked at the young man with a tinge of fear in their eyes. Resolute, fierce, and ambitious. Those who obey me will prosper, those who oppose me will perish. In less than 10 years, this descendant of the Ling people would definitely stand at the top of the eastern border. Ling people were in high spirits. How dare you? Ling Xiao, you've already killed my Yuan Yu holy son. What else do you want? Also, do you think Ling people won't have to pay the price for destroying my Yuan Yu holy land? Yuan Yu sacred lord's tone was no longer as unyielding as before. There was no other way. The situation was beyond his control. Wasn't it better to be alive? In Yuan Yu sacred lord's opinion, Ling people would definitely have god kings and even god emperors fall in this battle. However, Yuan Yu Holy Land would undoubtedly be doomed eternally. Price. Ling Xiao shook his head and raised his head to look in the direction of the ancient puppet sect. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. Buzz! Suddenly, the space behind him was filled with oppressive might. Then, everyone was dumbfounded when they saw a third-grade god emperor and 4 god kings suddenly appear and surround Ling Xiao. Greetings, young master. In just a few days, Hua Heng and Xing Shen's cultivation had both made breakthroughs. Hua Heng was already a 3rd-grade god emperor and Xing Shen was a 4th-grade god emperor. Of course, the Xing clan was Liang Yi's subordinate force in the land of the last repose. They had concealed their cultivation before. As for Hua Heng, he had suppressed his cultivation for hundreds of years. Now that he was following Ling Xiao, there was no need to suppress his cultivation anymore. Now that Ling Xiao had only summoned Hua Heng, it was naturally because he wanted to preserve some of his trump cards. Concealing one's strength could often lead to unexpected results at crucial moments. Otherwise, if all of them were exposed, someone would gain the upper hand. As for the villains, the alarm bells were ringing. This, including Ling Tianlin, all the experts present were dumbfounded when they saw the god emperors and god kings standing behind Ling Xiao like servants. God emperors as servants? Moreover, they were servants of a Powang youth? The god emperors of the eastern border were so worthless now. Did they not care about their dignity anymore? They were the top fighting strength of the eastern border. How could they have fallen to such a state? Ha ha. Everyone from the ancient puppet sect, where are you going? Suddenly, the ancient puppet sect master and the others, who had come aggressively, retracted their auras and walked toward the night sky in the distance. Their faces were calm and leisurely. It was as if they had just come here for a visit. Ha ha ha, previously, I heard that young Master Ling Xiao killed my sect's young master, Chou Yi. Originally, I was still thinking, how could a mere trash like him be chosen by young master? Just now, when young master called my name, I understood. The ancient puppet sect master's face suddenly surged with a wisp of seriousness. Young master, are you interested in our 4 great war puppets? Ling Xiao raised an eyebrow and looked meaningfully at the ancient puppet sect master. This old thing was quite understanding. Chou Yi's black demon puppet is only a 9th-grade divine general. How about this, young master? Our sect 4 great war puppet. This silver demon puppet obviously doesn't suit young master's temperament. This sky corpse puppet cough cough, this sky corpse puppet was made from the corpse of our ancestral master. If I give it to young master, I'm afraid I will bear the name of betraying my ancestral master. Even though this golden demon war puppet only possesses the strength of a 9th-level god king, it doesn't seem to be at a disadvantage against ordinary god emperors. Thus, I'll gift it to you as a toy. I hope that you'll be able to defeat that bastard today. Damn. Hearing this, Yuan Yu's sacred master's mouth spilled a trace of blood. This despicable old dog, not only did he not help, he even gave Ling Xiao a god emperor war puppet. My Yuan Yu sacred ground will perish today. Thank you, ancient puppet sect master. Ling Zhao's eyes turned cold, but he was thinking in his heart. Given the ancient puppet sect's means, if they fought to the death, they would be far more difficult to deal with than the Yuan Yu sacred ground. After all, the Tao of puppets was about exchanging lives with numbers. Although he had many god emperors behind him, if he lost one, it would affect Ling people's plan. What's there to thank? It's all fate. Young master, we will take our leave first. The ancient puppet sect master's figure flashed, and he left with the others. Only the golden figure remained in the air, the soul light in his eyes gradually dissipating. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He waved his hand and summoned the golden figure in front of him. Then, he formed a seal with his eyes, and it entered the golden figure's soul sea. Yuan Yu sacred master, it seems like your Yuan Yu sacred ground is doomed today. Humph. Even if I die, I will make you pay the price. Yuan Yu sacred master shouted angrily. The emperor aura around him turned into divine light and shot into the sky. Yuan Yu sacred ground, today we will fight to the death. Fight! On the peak of the Saint Mountain, countless disciples of Yuan Yu sacred ground roared angrily. Although there was despair in their eyes, they did not have the slightest intention of retreating. What a righteous sect! Everyone is loyal. If that's the case, I won't be polite anymore. Since you want to fight, I will give you a chance. Don't you want to avenge Xiachen? Come, today, I will fight your 3,000 disciples alone. As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, he landed on the foot of the Yuan Yu sacred mountain and looked up at the peak of the mountain. Today, I will use this path and 3,000 blood souls to forge my supreme demonic might. Chapter 344. Ling Xiao. How arrogant of you! Yuan Yu sacred ground fell silent for a moment. Then, someone among the 3,000 disciples shouted angrily. However, in the blink of an eye, someone else whispered, "He's a little arrogant, but Ling Xiao can be considered a gentleman." What do you mean, junior brother? He could have waited for the Ling people to kill our God Emperor and then killed us all. However, he insisted on fighting us fairly. This is what a gentleman would do. Now that you mention it, it does make some sense. Looks like even though he's an enemy, Ling Xiao still has some things we can learn from him. Someone as righteous as him. Could it be that the son of Saint made the first move? All the disciples looked at the figure standing at the foot of the mountain with the black saber in his hand. Judging from the tone of the Ling people's descendant, he was going to fight the 3,000 disciples of Yuan Yu sacred ground alone. How domineering was that? The strongest disciple of Yuan Yu sacred ground was only a first-grade divine general. He was the eldest senior brother of the sect master and was already 60 years old. However, Ling Xiao was only at the Paong realm. Where did he get the courage to make such a claim? Could it be that he had also become a divine general? Impossible. He was only a 17-year-old boy. Even if he was talented, no one in the eastern border could achieve that at such a young age. Moreover, even if he used a secret technique to increase his cultivation, how could he fight 3,000 disciples at the same time? Sacred Lord Yuan Yu, please. Although Ling Tianlin was a little worried, he would never stop Ling Xiao from making a decision. However, the void behind him trembled slightly. It seemed that a figure had left. Emperor Ling, even if I die today, I will make you pay the price for Ling people. Elders of Yuan Yu, listen to my order. Fight. An unparalleled momentum rose to the sky. Then, one figure after another flew out from the mountain peak and rushed toward the crowd in the void. They were like moths flying into a flame, heroic and resolute. Boom! A great battle broke out in an instant. How could Yuan Yu sacred ground fight against 4 supreme Taoism orthodoxies at the same time? Instantly, more than half of the spiritual light that shot into the sky was extinguished. Blood fell like rain, and the thick smell of blood spread for thousands of miles. At the foot of the sacred mountain, Ling Xiao stood alone. Not far behind him, Yi Qingchuan and Lin Meng were waiting quietly. At this moment, there was not the slightest hint of a smile on the two women's faces, nor did they look at each other. All of them looked nervously at the lonely yet determined figure not far away. They knew that the young master's actions today were to avenge Nian Qingyun. For some reason, they suddenly felt envious of the fallen goddess of the holy Ji Palace. One person, one saber, to personally avenge this hatred. Young master was indeed a righteous person. Ling Zhao's face was expressionless. His imperial robe shone brightly. Finally, he could justifiably slaughter the world. 3,000 blood souls. Eating them should be very nutritious, right? Qingyun, tonight is for you. Ling Xiao raised his head, and there was sorrow in his eyes. Everyone would die eventually, but sometimes they all needed a little help. When Yuan Yu's sacred ground's disciples saw this scene, they sighed with emotion. It seemed that the rumors were not true. The descendant of the Ling people was a person who valued friendship and righteousness. Such a person was worthy of respect even if he was an enemy. Brothers, I'm afraid that Yuan Yu's sacred ground is going to die today. However, if we can kill the descendant of the Ling people, our life will not be in vain. Everyone, let's go. Suddenly, a disciple on the mountain peak roared angrily. His figure flashed, and he instantly rushed toward Ling Xiao. However, when he landed in front of Ling Xiao, he suddenly felt that there was no one behind him, and his heart skipped a beat. When he turned his head again, he saw a straight mountain path leading to the mountain peak. It was dark and quiet, and there was no one there. Gulp! Suddenly, he felt a chill in the bottom of his heart. Damn! Ling Xiao was the person who killed the Holy Sun, and he was only at the early stage of Paoang. He was just hot-headed just now. Junior brother Li is too unrighteous. Although Ling Xiao is arrogant, he is loyal and righteous. How can we shamelessly gang up on him? That's right. Even if we kill him together, we will have an unfair advantage, right? On the mountain peak, several disciples of Yuan Yu's sacred ground snorted and said righteously, Pucci. At this moment, Ling Xiao did not hesitate at all. The black blade in his hand chopped down. He did not even use the slightest bit of Taoism and directly chopped off the head of the disciple surnamed Li. The demonic blade was soaked in blood, and it emitted a wisp of ghostly scarlet light. Whoosh! One after another, several disciples of Yuan Yu's sacred ground fell from the sky. However, in the end, they were no match for Ling Zhao's saber. Their corpses fell, and the smell of blood filled the air. Ling Xiao took a step forward and began to walk toward the mountain peak. Gulp! Even though they were hundreds of miles away, the disciples of Yuan Yu's sacred ground still felt a deep pressure from the bottom of their hearts. In the end, some of them began to feel afraid and hesitant. They were not so righteous anymore. Senior brothers, Ling Xiao is cruel and ruthless. Let's work together to kill this demon and get rid of evil for the world. There is no need to talk about righteousness with such a person. Kill him. Yes. Senior brother Chu is right. Righteousness depends on who you are facing. Everyone has the right to kill a demon like Ling Xiao. Let's attack him together. Boom! The spiritual light in the sky converged into a river and rushed down from the mountain peak. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the river that poured down like the Milky Way from the ninth heaven. A smile finally appeared at the corner of his mouth. Good. My saber has been hungry for a long time. Boom. The dazzling lightning illuminated the entire sacred mountain as if it was daytime. The pressure of a third-grade divine general was like a heavy hammer that slammed into everyone's hearts. Divine general! A third-grade divine general! The crowd suddenly became chaotic for a moment. However, no matter how scared they were, they had no other choice at this moment. Nonsense, isn't that so? Junior brothers behind me are charging forward. I want to retreat, but can I? In the end, the figures at the front fell from the sky. Spiritual light fell like a raging wave and instantly drowned Ling Zhao's figure. Yi Qingchan and Lin Mengmeng clenched their jade-like hands. Their pretty faces were cold, but they still did not move. Or rather, they did not dare to move. The young master said that this was a battle that he should fight alone and protect the Tao that he should protect. Suddenly, she felt a little heartache and disappointment. She felt sorry for him. In the end, he had to shoulder everything alone. She was also disappointed by his love for Nian Qingyun. It was really very heavy, wasn't it? Buzz. Suddenly, the sound of a sword resonated in the sky. Amidst the countless figures, broken limbs and wreckage instantly fell to the ground. The young man covered in blood slashed with his saber and instantly turned into a bloody path. Wherever the saber passed, the crowd seemed to be cut into pieces. Blood flowed down the mountain path and dyed the ancient bluestone path red. But at this moment, under the 3,000 attacks, some wounds appeared on Ling Zhao's body. However, he seemed to be at a loss. Just like this, he walked step by step toward the peak. Demon! Great demon! This continued until there was not a single person within 30 feet of the youth. The emperor's robe he was wearing had already been dyed red by the blood. Even his eyes and the black saber in his hand revealed a touch of demonic blood-red light. Junior brothers, follow me and attack. At this moment, more than half of the 3,000 disciples of the sacred ground were dead. In front of the crowd, a white-clothed figure stood proudly. The aura around him had also reached the level of a divine general. It was the first personal disciple of the Yuan Yu sacred leader, Zheng Yang. At this moment, there was also a touch of fear on his face. In particular, the indifference in Ling Zhao's eyes made him feel an indescribable chill in his heart. Set up the divine sword demon slaying formation. But now, he could not retreat anymore. In the sky, the aura gradually calmed down. It was obvious that his master and the others had most likely died. The Yuan Yu sacred ground had no one to rely on anymore. Fight to the death! Buzz! Hundreds of spiritual lights gathered in one place and vaguely turned into a divine sword that was 100 feet long. The Tao patterns on it flickered, revealing boundless vastness. A sky-tearing force surged out, crushing the void and creating countless cracks. However, at this moment, there was no trace of panic on Ling Zhao's face. The moon began to rise in his blood-red eyes. Chapter 345. Slash. The sword's shadow began to emit 7-colored flowing light. Ancient runes emerged, and a faint, immortal intent descended. The sword that gathered the spiritual energy of hundreds of Yuan Yu sacred ground's disciples finally slashed toward Ling Zhao's head. The sound of the great Tao resounded. A gust of wind began to howl on the ancient mountain path. There was only one sword left in the world. Even the countless god emperors and god kings in the sky lowered their heads to look at it in surprise. Especially when they felt the terrifying sharpness contained in the sword that seemed to be able to split the sky, a hint of shock flashed across their eyes. Shao-er! The moon of Xuanyuan's expression turned serious. She was about to fly away, but Ling Tianlin grabbed her hand. Ling Tianlin, what are you doing? Let go of me! This is the Tao that Shao-er needs to practice. I believe that this sword won't be able to slash my son. Ling Tianlin shook his head. Although his expression was solemn, he did not panic. This was because he saw that Ling Zhao's expression remained unchanged. He was calm and indifferent, like a sky demon overlooking all living beings. If anything happens to Shao-er, I'll make your Ling people accompany him in death. The moon of Xianyuan gritted her teeth, but in the end, she shook off Ling Tianlin's hand with a cold expression. Her eyes stared nervously at the lonely figure on the ancient path below. Just like the Tao he should walk, he had no one to rely on in his life, and blood would be shed everywhere. Wherever he passed, people would either submit to him or be beheaded. Buzz. The spiritual sword finally slashed down, creating a ripple in the void. However, when the sword was about 10 meters away from Ling Zhao's head, the blood moon in the young man's eyes suddenly rotated. After that, everyone watched in horror as the 300-meter-long sword shadow suddenly disappeared without a trace. The entire sacred mountain was black in color. The spiritual light around the Yuan Yu sacred ground's disciples also disappeared. At this moment, there was even a hint of confusion on their faces. Just like that, he stared at the pitch-black world in front of him until he felt a chill on his neck. Then, he lost all consciousness. On the mountain path that had long since been dyed red with blood, the youth brandished his blade as he advanced. It was as if he was harvesting grass. Heads rolled down one after another, emitting a pleasant sound. He didn't even have the chance to beg for mercy. Even his divine soul trembled at the moment of his death and was devoured by an indescribable force. Until the youth's figure stood at the peak of the mountain. The entire mountain path had been covered by corpses. Hell on earth, this was probably the case. Even the leader of the demonic sect, 10,000 men's enemy, had a look of astonishment in his eyes. Compared to this young man in front of him, he didn't seem to be worthy of being called a devil. But for some reason, he felt a little reverent. What they were in awe of wasn't the youth's killing intent, but the indifference on his face that hadn't changed from beginning to end. Killing 3,000 disciples did not even cause the slightest ripple in his heart. With a heart as tough as steel, he naturally wouldn't be disturbed by his inner demons. Or rather, he was a demon. Only the moon of Xianyuan and Ling Tianlin had a look of worry in their eyes. But at the same time, there was an indescribable emotion in their eyes. Killing 1,000 people to become a demon, slaughtering 100 million to become an immortal. If Ling Xiao were to become the enemy of the entire world one day, they hoped that he would be able to kill all living beings like he was doing now. That way, the entire world would be invincible. Boom! Suddenly, a figure fell from the sky. Yuan Yu's sacred master was lying weakly on the ground. His entire body was covered in blood. His bones were all broken. At this moment, he was looking at the youth before him who was also covered in blood. His aged eyes were filled with resentment and fear. But more than that, there was a sadness of doomsday. Since when did the situation in the eastern border become under the control of a young man? At this moment, Yuan Yu's sacred master had no doubt that even if the ethereal Tao Palace and the myriad Tao demonic sect didn't interfere, his Yuan Yu sacred ground would still be destroyed today. Ling Tianlin, Yuan Yu's sacred master, raised his head with great effort and looked at the white-clothed figure in the sky. Finally, he sighed softly in his heart. With this pair of father and son, the eastern border's surname would probably change to Ling Tianlin. Ling Xiao, you have demonic intent in your heart. Sooner or later, you will suffer retribution. Qingyun, tonight I will do it for you. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the sky. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Thousands of miles away, the stars were dazzling and the moon hung high in the sky. It was a beautiful sight. I wonder if I should call you Nian Qingyun or Gu Chao Ci the next time we meet? Puchi. The demonic saber was swung down and stabbed into Yuan Yu's sacred master's chest. The originally gloomy and deep demonic saber started to emit a wisp of blood-red light. A complicated and strange demonic rune suddenly lit up and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At this moment, a trace of astonishment flashed through Ling Zhao's eyes. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed that the demonic intent in the demonic saber had awakened. At the same time, in Ling Zhao's sea of soul, Yuan Yu's sacred master looked at the pitch-black ancient palace in front of him with a blank expression. Especially when he felt the terrifying pressure coming from the palace, his face became somewhat pale. Where is this? The place where sacred master is buried. Ling Zhao's figure descended from the sky. Both of his eyes had changed color. In one of his eyes, there seemed to be a blood-red moon rising. In the other eye, there was a pure darkness that emitted boundless evil. Ling Xiao, how dare you take my divine soul into your sea of soul? Yuan Yu Sacred Master was slightly dumbfounded. Was this lad too arrogant? He was a 5th-grade divine emperor. Even if his physical body was destroyed, how could the power of his divine soul be comparable to that of a mere divine general? However, just as he finished speaking, he saw the young man's blood-red eyes light up at the same time. Immediately after, his world seemed to darken. In front of him was a sea of blood. Xia Chen and the other elders of the sacred grounds stood in the distance and looked at him in a daze. In the next instant, everyone swarmed over and stretched out their hands to grab his neck, arms, and other parts of his body. Sacred Master, why didn't you save us? Sacred Master, why are you living in this world? 1,000-year-old inheritance. It was destroyed by your hands. No, it's not like this. It's not like this. Yuan Yu Sacred Master was at a loss as he cried. It seemed as though he could not resist anymore. He was pushed to the ground by the crowd and gradually suffocated. However, the moment he fell into the boundless illusion, a strange suction force quietly enveloped his body. At this moment, Yuan Yu Sacred Master's divine soul seemed to have been freed. Buzz! The Soul Palace suddenly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had reached a height of 3,000 zhang. The bloody glow in Ling Zhao's eyes finally dissipated at this moment, turning into a deep and profound look. The Divine Emperor's Soul Palace. Finally, after devouring 3,000 disciples and a Divine Emperor's divine soul, it was forged. Beat. The host's actions are in line with the style of an antagonist. The system rewards the host with 50,000 antagonist points and 1% destiny forging points. Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed slightly and turned indifferent. As expected, killing is the best way for an antagonist to cultivate? Whoosh, whoosh. Countless figures descended from the sky. They looked at the young man in front of them and Yuan Yu Sacred Master, who had already lost his vitality. Nian Qingyun, wait for me. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the sky. There, a huge demonic figure let out a cry of despair. Then, to everyone's horror, they saw the ancient dragon lizard, which had been suppressed by Hua Heng and Xing Shen a long time ago, suddenly spit out a strange demonic core and turned around to flee. Be careful! That beast is going to detonate its demonic core. Just as the crowd's bodies shone with dazzling light, the flowery dragon in the sky opened its mouth and swallowed the Divine Emperor's demonic core. Burp! Gulp! Even Ling Xiao was looking at the demonic dragon that was descending towards him with a strange expression on his face. This dog's innate talent couldn't be eating, right? Chapter 346. Hee, everyone, Yuan Yu's sacred ground has been destroyed. Shouldn't we get down to business? Wan Rendi's enemy sneered. He didn't come here just to stand up for Ling Xiao. Yuan Yu's sacred ground had a supreme status, so the foundation of the sect was naturally very attractive. Moreover, Ling Xiao had sent a letter early this morning, passing the position of young master to Fu Yunyao. F***ck. Wan Rendi's enemy had lived for 200 years. It was his first time hearing that the position of young master could be passed to someone else. However, Ling Zhao's action showed that he was ready to leave the myriad Dao demon sect and return to the Ling people. Now, the only person who was qualified to be the young master of the sect was Xiao Tu and Fu Yunyao. However, not only was Xiao Tu not interested in the position of young master, he even strongly supported Fu Yunyao. As a result, the position of young master of the myriad Dao demon sect fell on Fu Yunyao's head. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and looked at Wan Rendi's enemy calmly. Wan Rendi's eyes narrowed. For a moment, he felt a faint sense of uneasiness in his heart. This feeling made Wan Rendi's enemy furious. Since when did he, the master of a supreme orthodoxy, fear a 17-year-old young man? However, when he thought of the young man's scheming methods and the overwhelming sky demon intent that he displayed today, the supreme orthodoxy and the God-Emperor experts seemed to be like toys in his hands. No one could stop him from killing whoever he wanted. Especially now, the one God-Emperor and 6 kings who appeared out of nowhere were even more willing to bow down to him. Wan Rendi's enemy swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Lord Ling Xiao, thank you for everything you've done for Qingyun. I'm sure she'll be happy in heaven. The Misty Palace's palace master looked at Ling Xiao deeply and didn't say anything else. She turned around and left in a carefree manner. Wan Rendi's enemy's eyes darkened when he saw this. However, in the end, he just smiled embarrassedly. Xiao, although you're no longer the young master of the myriad Dao demon sect, the senior and junior brothers in the sect miss you very much. I'll keep your cave for you. Come back and visit when you're free. Once a teacher, always a teacher. Ling Zhao's words dispelled Wan Ren's enemy's worries. He nodded and bowed to Ling Tianlin and the moon of Xianyuan. Then, he led the demonic sect away. The entire mountain peak suddenly became silent. Xiao, why did you reveal your devil intent today? The moon of Xianyuan glared at Ling Xiao with some reproach, and said via divine sense. Mother, don't worry. I have my own plans. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Sometimes, the more you try to hide something, the easier it is for others to suspect you. Since the saint had sent oracles to various places, there would definitely be people paying attention to him. Truth and falsehood made it even more difficult to fathom. Otherwise, how could they explain Ling Zhao's heaven-defying battle prowess? Moreover, he also needed a god's messenger to walk right into his trap. After all, the power that he had accumulated was definitely not something that an ordinary emperor god could contend against. Just the incarnation of sect Master Taishuan's divine sense alone could easily kill a 3rd or 5th grade emperor god. As long as the divine master of the saint did not come personally, he was confident that he could get some useful information from the god's messenger. It was better to know oneself and know one's enemy. Killing people without leaving a trace. As for the remaining supreme orthodoxies, the ancient puppet sect had performed well today and was not a cause for concern. As for the Hunyuan ancient sect, Ling Tian had said to the Hunyuan ancient sect master that he would definitely destroy them. Then, he would leave them to him as a training ground. After all, he was the son of destiny. Before he reached the peak of the world, he would need to step on one stepping stone after another to climb up. With Ling Tian's luck, there should be no big trouble in this world. Given some time, he would definitely follow him with his sword. Oh, do you want to follow me back to the Danyuan sacred ground to stay for a few days? The moon of Xianyuan nodded slightly. Ling Zhao's actions today were indeed beyond her expectations. Even his cruel and bloodthirsty look made her feel a little unfamiliar. However, when she thought about the blow to her son from the death of the person he loved, the worry in her heart was relieved. Mother, I will be leaving the eastern border for a while. When I return, I will definitely go to the Danyuan sacred ground to accompany you. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. By the way, Mother, about the matter between Ling Tian and me, you don't have to worry about it anymore. I have already buried the hatchet with him. Buried the hatchet? The moon of Xianyuan was stunned. She felt that she could not see through her son anymore. The hatchet of digging up the Danyuan Sea could be buried? Could it be that Xiao used some evil means to control Ling Tian? As expected of my son. Perhaps Ling Tian was wrong about many things, but he was right about one thing. If one day Ling Xiao really became an enemy of the world, the moon of Xianyuan would definitely not dissuade him. Instead, she would help him kill as many people as possible. All right, I understand. Xiao, I have some pills here. Take them with you. The Danyuan sacred token I gave you before. Anyone in the Xingzhou continent who is proficient in the Tao of alchemy will definitely give you some face when they see this token. You can order them around. The Moon of Xianyuan took out a Qiankuan bag from her bosom and handed it to Ling Xiao. If you encounter something you can't solve, call me through the sound transmission talisman. Mother will solve it for you. Alright. Ling Xiao smiled bitterly and turned to look at Lin Meng, who was standing beside Xianyue. Meng I have a few things for you. Young master, Lin Meng's pretty face was slightly red, and she seemed a little uneasy. Unlike Nian Qingyun, Su Yan, and the others, in Lin Meng's eyes, no matter what kind of talent and cultivation she had now, her young master would always be supreme. His favor was a gift from heaven. This was a kind of inferiority that was fused into her bones. In Lin Meng's opinion, if it wasn't for her young master's favor, her life would definitely be ordinary and mediocre. This ancient cauldron is a Tao artifact. You can use it to refine pills. Also, you should study these two cultivation techniques properly. After saying that, Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly flickered with soul light. Lin Meng only felt her soul sea tremble, and two strange ancient techniques suddenly appeared before her eyes. They were the Tao of alchemy written by Elder Ling and the Tao of alchemy written by the Blazing Scripture. Young master, Meng when can I stay by your side? Lin Meng lowered her head, as if she was somewhat terrified. The Moon of Xianyuan smiled bitterly and turned to the side. Wait until your cultivation reaches the Divine Champion realm. The place I'm going to next is really dangerous. Yes. Then Meng will take her leave. Lin Meng's red lips were tightly pursed, but there was a trace of determination in her eyes. Divine Champion should be very fast. But the ancient technique that young master passed to me is really mysterious and unpredictable. Transforming spirit fire into a lotus can kill immortals and demons? From the beginning to the end, the Moon of Xianyuan didn't even look at Ling Tianlin and directly turned to leave with Lin Meng. Only the Ling people were left in the entire Yuanyu sacred ground. Yi Qingchan stood in the distance, looking at the young man in white with clear eyes. In her mind, the ancient soul's voice sounded again. Did you see that? Is this something a human can do? He slaughtered 3,000 creatures without even blinking an eye. He is a demon. He is destined to be your enemy. I know. Yi Qingchan just smiled calmly. You know? Then do you know that demons have been cold-blooded and ruthless since ancient times? You will be abandoned by him sooner or later if you follow him. Cold-blooded and ruthless? But I really envy Nian Qingyun. A trace of loneliness flashed through Yi Qingchan's brows, but the coldness in her eyes made her look like an immortal overlooking the common people. In other words, only when she looked at Ling Xiao did she look like a naive girl from the lower realm. If he is a demon, then I will become a demon with him. You! Chapter 347. Xiao go and collect Yuanyu Sacred Grounds treasury. I'll go and capture the spirit vein for you. Ling Tianlin raised his head and glanced at the sacred mountain. He took a step forward and disappeared from the spot. Ling Xiao nodded with a smile and headed toward the back of the mountain. With the experience from the Cloud Dew Sacred Ground, Ling Xiao found Yuanyu Sacred Grounds treasury without much effort. He also realized that the layout of these supreme Taoism orthodoxies was indeed the same. The treasury was huge and majestic. There were 3 floors in total. The first floor was for spirit tools, the second floor was for elixirs and spirit materials, and the last floor was for cultivation techniques and martial arts. Ling Xiao. However, just as Ling Xiao was about to step forward to collect the treasure, a familiar voice suddenly rang out. Ling Xiao stopped in his tracks. He looked sad and helpless. Little ancestor. You can't be careful of that woman. Yi Qingchan, Feng Ling took a deep look at Ling Xiao and disappeared. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. He was surprised. Just now, there was a hint of worry in Feng Ling's eyes. Could it be because of that innate wisdom? In the end, Ling Xiao did not think too much about it. He had the system and could easily determine Yi Qingchan's psychological changes. Therefore, he did not need to worry about her suddenly becoming a different person. However, he had to think of a way to help Yi Qingchan erase her original self. Ling Xiao chose a few insignificant ones and prepared to reward those vassal forces who worked hard for him. People's hearts had to be won over. Otherwise, why would these extras be willing to die for their master? The corners of Ling Xiao's mouth curled into a smile when he heard a loud dragon roar from the back of the mountain. The so-called spirit vein was also known as the dragon vein. The earth was the dragon's flesh, the stones were the dragon's bones, and the plants were the dragon's scales. However, what really affected the providence was the spirit qi hidden under the earth, stones, plants, and plant. Every ancient mountain and river had a dragon vein. The higher the mountain, the deeper the river, and the stronger the dragon vein. Therefore, in the high mountains and deep rivers, there were many sacred grounds of immortal sections. It was a place with good feng shui. Now, even though Ling Xiao's realm had suns, moons, mountains, and lakes, it didn't have the slightest spiritual qi. Of course, if they continued to develop, there would be a day when they would have a chance of survival. However, Ling Xiao could not wait that long. What he needed to do was to capture the 9 dragon veins and place them inside, turning it into a holy land for cultivation. This was what he would rely on to stand at the peak of the world in the future. Of course, the identity given by others was not as good as the power in his own hands. Especially for a villain, caution and strength were indispensable. Buzz. However, just as Ling Xiao opened Yuan Yu's Sacred Lord's Qinkuan bag and was about to take all the numinous treasures inside, a loud buzzing sound was heard. Immediately after, a golden ancient seal suddenly appeared in the sky. It turned into a stream of light and flew into the distance. This is a Dao artifact that has evolved an artifact spirit? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes and the smile on his face grew wider. This was an unexpected surprise. Everyone knew that the evolution of an artifact spirit was a sublimation of a numinous treasure. When he had killed the 3,000 disciples of the sacred land, the primordial demon blade had released a strange fluctuation. According to Ling Xiao, the broken artifact spirit should have shown signs of awakening after being nourished by blood. However, he really did not expect Yuan Yu's Sacred Lord to have a Dao artifact with an artifact spirit. Where do you think you are going? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed. He suddenly clenched his fist, and a lightning hand seal appeared out of thin air. It directly suppressed the golden light. Boom! However, to Ling Xiao's surprise, the golden light only trembled for a moment before it broke through the lightning and flew into the distance. Come back! Ling Xiao's expression turned serious. The 8 types of Dao laws around him released a strange divine glow. They turned into a giant palm again and grabbed the golden light. Chirp! A strange chirp was heard. The golden light suddenly bloomed and tried to break free from Ling Xiao's control. However, no matter how powerful a Dao artifact was, it could not be a match for Ling Xiao. After a while, the golden light finally disappeared and was pulled down from the sky by Ling Xiao. It was a square ancient golden seal that was as thick as a finger. There was a golden phoenix engraved on it. Shower! Ling Tianlin descended from the sky with a ball of spiritual light in his hand. There seemed to be a green shadow rampaging in it. Father! I have removed the divine sense of this spirit vein for you. You can refine it directly. Ling Tianlin handed over the spiritual light in his hand and glanced at the golden seal in Ling Xiao's hand. This is Yuan Yu's Sacred Lord's Golden Crow Divine Seal? Golden Crow Divine Seal. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. That's right. This seal used to be an ordinary Dao artifact. Yuan Yu's Sacred Lord killed a demon crow divine emperor and trapped its divine soul in it. That's how it became a supreme-grade Dao artifact. However, the demon crow divine soul was severely injured in the battle just now. Shower, do you want me to remove its divine sense? Ling Tianlin looked at Ling Xiao coldly. No, I will do it myself. Father, I plan to leave the eastern border today. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked into the distance. The eastern border was no longer a challenge for him. He couldn't wait to go to the battlefield at the western border and kill to his heart's content. Are you in such a hurry? Shower, let Ghost Shadow follow you. Ling Tianlin hesitated for a moment and suddenly said. Especially now, the divine sect had sent divine envoys to the four states. Although he didn't know what they were going to do, it was better to be careful. No, father. The Ling people have been conquering everywhere recently. I'm afraid some people will be anxious. You just need to protect the Ling people. Leave the rest to me. Ling Xiao shook his head. The divine sect had never done things according to common sense. Ghost Shadow was the biggest trump card of the Ling people. It would be more useful to keep him by his father's side. Although he had shown his talent and demonic will. However, the more he was like this, the easier it was to confuse people. After all, he had a forbidden body. Before he grew up, he couldn't wait to bury his head in the ground. Being ostentatious might not be a bad thing. Of course, the divine sect would rather kill the wrong person than let him go. Therefore, Ling Xiao already had a plan in his heart. Today, Yuan Yu Holy Land's path of blood was his bait. All right. If you have any difficulties, just send me a message. The western border is in chaos. If it wasn't for the Holy Sect's iron rule that the supreme Taoist orthodoxies can't cross the border, the eastern border would have been conquered by those dynasties. Ling Tianlin's eyes flickered with seriousness. Although killing and conquering were cruel and bloody, one had to admit that it was easier to train one's temperament and cultivation. Especially now, with the momentum of a great battle, there were many monsters. Although Ling Xiao was the strongest genius of the eastern border, facing a dynasty was tantamount to an ant trying to shake a tree. However, if someone dared to hurt his son, the dynasty could be destroyed. I understand. Father, don't worry. Ling Xiao bowed deeply to Ling Tianlin. Endless slaughter was the best place to hide the demonic nature in his body. Leaks of the western border? Are you ready? In the end, Ling Tianlin didn't say anything else. He led the Ling people and left. In the crowd, Qin Ling looked back several times. Looking at the white-robed figure standing on the mountain peak, his face was filled with disappointment and sadness. Originally, I thought that as long as I followed the Ling people, I could stand side by side with you. It turned out that I thought too much. In fact, only by becoming your enemy would you truly take me seriously, right? Inexplicably, a hint of determination flashed in Qin Ling's eyes. At this moment, he seemed to have understood something. Young Master Yi Qingchan walked to Ling Zhao's side. Behind her, Hua Heng and the other divine kings of the fire tribe stood quietly. Where are we going now? Home. Ling Xiao smiled faintly, but Yi Qingchan's face stiffened slightly. Back to the Ling people? However, before she could finish her words, the scenery in front of her changed. A desolate intent instantly rushed towards her. At the end of her sight, there was a stone staircase that connected the heavens and the earth. Above the clouds, an ancient bluestone palace stood in the air, exuding endless majesty. Chapter 348. Upper Realm, Immortal Mountain, Golden Palace. Gu Chaoxiai's eyes were cold as she sat in the main hall. Beside her, an old woman in a blue robe was kneeling on the ground, trembling. Say that again. Celestial Emperor, you're fine. It's just that you're pregnant. Boom! A chaotic and domineering aura instantly enveloped the entire Immortal Mountain. In front of the Golden Palace, countless armored guards instantly prostrated themselves on the ground, their faces filled with confusion and surprise. The Celestial Emperor's temper seemed to be getting worse and worse. Are you sure you didn't see wrongly? Gu Chaozi frowned slightly, her beautiful eyes filled with absolute coldness. In the void behind her, there were immortal shadows, mountains, and rivers. It was indescribably mysterious and terrifying. Celestial Emperor, how could this old servant dare to? How can I remove it? Gu Chaozi took a deep breath, and her tone returned to its usual calmness. Celestial Emperor, this old servant has a pill here. You should be fine after taking it. The old woman took out a jade bottle from her qianquan bag, kneeled on the ground, and presented it to Gu Chaozi. You may leave. Gu Chaozi took the jade bottle, but a trace of coldness flashed in her eyes. The moment the old woman turned around, she suddenly felt a chill on her neck, and then lost all consciousness. How could this be? This child, where did it come from? Gu Chaozi held her forehead for a long time before opening the jade bottle. However, the moment she poured out the pill, an indescribable pain and despair came from the bottom of her heart. For some reason, Gu Chaozi's face turned pale and her body trembled. She looked at the jade bottle that had fallen to the ground in confusion. How could it be? Is it that sub-soul? But how could she affect my mood? In the realm. Ling Xiao stood at the top of the sky with his hands behind his back, looking down at the entire realm. He had asked Xing Shun and the others to build this floating palace. 1,000-mile-long bluestone staircase supported the entire palace. The ancient palace was surrounded by a square that was 100 feet wide. Below, Xing Shun and the others were still busy building the stone palaces that were adjacent to each other. Young master, what is this place? This floating palace is really impressive. Yi Qingchan's eyes sparkled. She had seen many beautiful immortal palaces ever since she came to the Xingzhou continent. However, compared to this ancient palace, it lacked an indescribable aura. Being high up in the 9 heavens, overlooking the common people. This was probably how it felt, right? This is my world. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. With a wave of his hand, the golden seal appeared and shone with a blinding golden light. I can return your freedom and let you reappear in this world, but you have to promise me one thing. Ling Xiao mumbled to himself. The ancient seal instantly emitted a fluctuation that seemed both threatening and struggling. If I want to kill you, you won't be able to resist at all. Submit to me, and perhaps there will be a day when you can rebuild your body. Ling Xiao shook his head indifferently. Dao laws circled around his hand, and a surge of yang energy surged into the seal, instantly calming it down. That's more like it. Open your mind and be my sole slave. Since you're a crow, turn into the sun of this place. Sprinkle your light on the world and rise and fall with the moon. Ling Xiao's eyes flickered. He turned into a seal and entered the seal. Then, he clenched his fist, and the golden seal instantly shattered. Immediately after, a ray of golden light appeared in the sky and turned into a 100-meter-tall demon shadow. It let out a loud cry. Below the heavenly palace, Xing Shun and the others raised their heads and looked at the sky. Their eyes were filled with surprise and fear. Go. Ling Xiao reached out and plucked the lightning sun. No matter how unwilling the crow was, it did not dare to go against Ling Xiao's will. It immediately flapped its wings and flew thousands of miles into the sky, turning into the shadow of a sun. Sunlight poured down from the sky and landed on the body. It was warm and tranquil, far beyond what Tao laws could compare to. Indeed, the sun was the source of life. Young master, that demon beast. Looking at the scene before her, Yi Qingchan finally understood what the young master's world was. It turned out that the young master had personally arranged everything here. It's just a mixed demon with the golden crow's bloodline. One day, I will catch a real golden crow and turn it into the sun of this place. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and looked down at the mountain range that stretched for thousands of miles. With a flip of his hand, the spirit vein appeared in his palm. Go! The spiritual light shattered, and a ray of green light suddenly bloomed, turning the world green. Rich spirit chi instantly swept out, turning into a whirlwind that blew in all directions. The dragon vein turned into the shape of a dragon and hid in the mountain range. All of a sudden, the entire realm became different. In just a few breaths' time, plants began to grow on the barren mountain. Now, this is getting interesting. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Although this realm was now under his control, it had not evolved into the laws of the Great Tao. However, as long as he captured the 9 spirit veins and filled this world with vitality, the laws of the Great Tao would naturally be born. At that time, he would be the only master of this place. The power of heaven and earth would gather in his body. Young master, it's getting late. Why don't we go and rest? Yi Qingqian walked to Ling Zhao's side, her beautiful eyes filled with anticipation. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and turned to look at the shy girl's face. Qingqian, you, young master, let Qingqian serve you tonight, okay? Inexplicably, Yi Qingqian's eyes seemed to be filled with tears. She felt that she was becoming less and less like herself. That irresistible fusion of divine souls would eventually turn her into a different person. She did not know if she would still remember Ling Xiao when that day came, but, before that, she wanted to give everything she had to this young master who gave her a new life. You're crazy. You're degrading yourself. He's a demon. No, stop it right now. You're a member of the Foliaceae. How can you let such a lowly ant taint your body? In the Sea of Soul, the ancient spirit's voice was filled with anger and even resentment. However, Yi Qingqian turned a deaf ear to it. Foliaceae? And in Qingqian's eyes, the young master was the only faith in this world. Haha, Qingqian, you're my woman. How can you serve me? Let's go. I'm really tired today. Let's go take a bath first. Ling Xiao smiled gently and reached out to hold Yi Qingqian's hand. Then, they descended towards a large lake below. Okay. Yi Qingqian's face was slightly red, and the embarrassment in her eyes was getting stronger. When the two of them disappeared into the clear lake, Ling Zhao's emperor's robe dissipated. Yi Qingqian nervously unbuttoned her clothes, revealing her shocking snow-white skin. Even though he had already seen it before, Ling Xiao couldn't help but sigh. She was indeed the Lady of Destiny, the darling of the Great Tao. At the very least, this body could be said to be exquisite and exquisite. Stop it right now. Stop it. Damn it, who are you to decide this body's chastity? You'll regret it. I'll kill him with my own hands. Young master, Yi Qingqian's eyes gradually became gentle. She took the initiative to wrap her arms around Ling Zhao's neck and pressed her body tightly against his. Feeling the coldness from the girl's body, Ling Zhao's lips curled into a smile. He lowered his head and kissed her deeply. Thousands of ripples suddenly appeared in the vast lake. A wisp of blood-red light faded in the waves, and the two figures intertwined. From the surface of the lake to the bottom of the lake. Unlike Su Yan's scorching heat, the girl's body was like a block of ice from the inside out. The waves didn't stop for a night. Before they subsided, they rose again. Up and down, they were talking in their sleep. Chapter 349. In the northern border, there were hundreds of thousands of mountains. At this moment, in the depths of the territory, on the peak of a mountain full of green trees and spirit flowers, a golden-robed figure descended from the sky, easily passing through the spirit veil that enveloped Qingqiu and walking into the distance. Demonic qi instantly filled the mountain, and two figures appeared in front of the golden-robed man. But in the next moment, their expressions changed at the same time, and they bowed deeply. From the beginning to the end, the golden-robed man did not even look at them. He walked past them and disappeared. Jiro, are you still unwilling to forgive me? At the back of Qingqiu Mountain, under a deep mountain stream, the golden-robed man stood with his hands behind his back. His face seemed to be covered by immortal clouds as he calmly looked at the beautiful white-robed figure sitting quietly in front of him. Divine light seemed to flicker in his eyes. I know that you still blame me for deceiving you, but as long as you tell me where the tower is, I will immediately return your freedom and bring you to the Xingzhou central border. Whatever you want, I can give it to you. The golden-robed man smiled warmly, but the white-robed woman was completely indifferent to his words. By Giro, it's been 100 years. Are you still so stubborn? Do you really think I care about that tower? I am now the sole ruler of this world. Without that tower, I am still the master of this world. What I care about is that you still have no regrets. Good. Good. Yes, I lied to you back then, but you were only that person's slave. Everything I did was for you. But why did you betray me in the end? Also, who took your virginity? The golden-robed man reached out and pinched the woman's chin, lifting her face. Golden light sprinkled down, setting off a pale and beautiful face that was full of death. Good, good. It's fine if you don't tell me. The taste of the soul-devouring parasite is not good, right? Let's see how long you can endure it. The golden-robed man snorted and turned to leave. Do you regret it? Suddenly, the woman in white opened her mouth and chuckled. There seemed to be a hint of mockery in her eyes. What do I have to regret? I am now the immortal god in the hearts of the world. But do you really not regret it? The golden-robed figure stopped in his tracks and sneered. Do you regret setting up that seal in my soul sea to prevent His Majesty from discovering our secret? Shatter upon contact. Ha ha, shatter upon contact. If I wasn't imprisoned here by you, I really wouldn't have thought of this even in my dreams. Baijiro looked up, her pair of clear eyes were filled with endless resentment. But now I have to thank you instead. If it wasn't for the existence of this seal, you would have probably searched my soul and killed me a long time ago. Why do you have to persuade me hypocritically? Why are you afraid that I will expose your scheme to the world? Announce it to the world? What harm is there in publicizing it to the world? Who in the Xingzhou can be my match? The golden-robed man shook his head and smiled. Oh, don't think that I don't know. Back then, you crippled your own cultivation to help you master the cycle of reincarnation, right? You've been waiting for his return? What a loyal slave. But even if you succeed, so what? The great fortune of heaven and earth is already within me. With that, the golden-robed man no longer hesitated. His figure flashed and instantly disappeared on the spot. My Majesty, I've let you down. Baijiro closed her eyes as tears rolled down her cheeks. Above the deep stream, the nine-tailed fox empress and ancestor Bai Qian waited quietly. They only bowed deeply when the golden-robed man walked out. Did she say anything to you? Divine Master, she didn't. Baijiro has never spoken for the past 100 years. I'll give you 1 more year to find out the whereabouts of that ancient treasure. She dared to steal this divine master's item. I'm already being merciful to your clan by not killing her. Remember. The golden-robed man coldly glanced at the two of them, then lifted his foot and walked into the distance. He was not afraid of Baijiro spouting nonsense, because she knew that once she did that, the entire fox clan would be buried with her. Moreover, as he had said earlier, he was already an invincible existence in the Xingzhou. The only reason he was looking for the pagoda was because of the great fortune inside. Because his identity would be discovered by the ancient clan sooner or later. At that time, he would lose both his reputation and his life. Unless, Giro, that silly girl. As the Divine Master's servant, it should be the most honorable honor for our nine-tailed fox clan. But she actually stole the treasure and descended to the lower realm, becoming such a vile creature. Bai Qian sighed. There was a hint of bitterness in his aged eyes. Fortunately, the Divine Master is magnanimous. He imprisoned her here for old time's sake and did not implicate our clan. Otherwise, Ancestor, do you really think Jiro is such an unreasonable person? The nine-tailed fox empress asked softly with a frown. Nonsense. The Divine Master's intentions are not something we can guess. In 1 year, no matter what method you use, you must find out the whereabouts of the Divine Master's ancient treasure. A hint of fear flashed in by Qian's eyes, but he eventually shouted with hatred. No matter. Why did Baijiro steal the treasure and descend to the lower realm? After all, it belonged to the Fox clan. They could not be destroyed because of her alone. The fall of one person to save the entire clan. This choice was not difficult to make, especially for an old demon like Bai Qian, who had lived for nearly 1,000 years. Yes, in the end, the nine-tailed fox empress did not say anything else. She only looked up at the sky in a daze. Perhaps the nine-tailed fox clan would only be destroyed when they found the ancient treasure, right? Mother, was that the Divine Master? At that moment, a petite figure suddenly appeared from the darkness in the distance. There was a hint of surprise in her pink eyes. Why would the Divine Master come to the nine-tailed fox clan? Moreover, judging from her mother's expression, it seemed a little ugly? She had only seen the golden figure from afar, and did not dare to approach. However, she felt a little uneasy for some reason. She did not know what her eldest sister had done back then. However, judging from the direction the Divine Master had left in, he had clearly come from the bottom of the stream. Could it be Jishi? How many times have I told you? You're not allowed to come here. Do you want me to ground you? The nine-tailed fox empress' face trembled. Her tone was filled with anger. Mother, what exactly did eldest sister do back then? Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Go back and rest. Baijishi pouted her small mouth and turned away. But in her eyes there was a flash of slyness. The Tao of the Void was strange and unpredictable. Humph, who could stop her from going where she wanted to go? Half a month later, in a magnificent ancient city at the border of the western border. Although it was magnificent, it was only in comparison to the other cities in the area. A large bluestone hall stood in the center of the ancient city. Although it was not luxurious, it exuded boundless vastness. In particular, the remaining cracks on the hall walls gave the ancient hall a desolate and iron-blooded aura. Ling Xiao and Yi Qingchan sat at a tea stall by the street. They looked at the endless stream of people on the street with indifferent expressions and chatted with the stall owner beside them. Yi Qingchan had a faint smile on her face the entire time. In just half a month, her pretty face seemed to have lost some of its youthfulness and gained some of its maturity. Most importantly, her cultivation seemed to have reached the threshold of a divine general. Uncle, is this Su Yun City, the capital of the great Xia dynasty? Ling Xiao held the teacup and took a sip. During this half a month, the two of them traveled westward and finally arrived at the small western border dynasty. Although the journey was long, it was not boring. They cultivated, slept, and fought. Yi Qingchan. Ling Xiao had reached the 7th grade of the divine general realm, which was terrifying. Beside him, an old man with a face full of wrinkles smiled and nodded. That's right, this is the royal city of the Xia dynasty. However, it's not the Great Xia dynasty. Has the title of the Great Xia dynasty been stolen by a thief? What do you mean? Inexplicably, Ling Xiao felt that there might be a child of destiny in the royal city. The title of the Great Xia dynasty had been taken away? The royal family fled to the ancestral land? This was a bit familiar. Sigh, it's a long story. Back then, the Great Xia dynasty was one of the 8 great dynasties of the western border. It was located in the most central spiritual land of the western border. However, 15 years ago, when the 9th prince was born, the heavens changed. Prince Xing rebelled and expelled the emperor's descendants to the western border. Hateful, sad, and shameful. As expected. Uncle, is this the ancestral land of the Great Xia dynasty? The place where the great Xia dynasty was founded? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and a playful smile appeared on his face. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.